right, I'm finally live. Sorry for that delay, folks. There were some technical difficulties. Every weekend, Google Chrome tends to update the browser, and then it just sets everything off on me and just completely like sabotages the computer. I have to restart the computer and get it going. So I pondered doing that this morning, didn't do it, and then all of a sudden I'm getting ready to do the show, and I'm kind of getting all my tabs open for the show in advance. And when all of a sudden a couple web pages would not load. And I'm probably frozen already, aren't I? Wonderful. Okay, I should be back now. All right, wonderful. It's been a chore over here. I try to get it as set up as possible before I do my show with everything. So we might freeze here and there. We'll see. But I apologize for that. We'll just have to grin and bear it a little bit. I don't know what's going on, but that's just been a little bit of a problem here today. So just noticing I had a bunch of stuff open that is not open. So yes, guys, sorry about all this. Rough start today, but we'll get through it. We'll fight through it. We got to fight through everything in life. Nothing comes easy, right? Freeing Kelsey's not easy. Freeing Karen's not easy. Freeing Turtleboy is not easy. But I do want to start off today, just to, again, tell everyone that, Broken Baker is hospitalized right now. It's a pretty serious matter that's going on with Broken Baker. So he is hospitalized right now pending a major surgery. So if you guys can keep him in your prayers, anything you guys can do to, whatever you guys can do, pray, whatever there is to maybe help him out there. I'm not sure if he has buy me a coffee, whatever it is that the expert was talking about. Yes, Broken Baker is hospitalized at this time. It looks like it's just going to be a standard surgery, but it is a pretty significant surgery that's happened to him. So I reached out to him, just gave my well wishes and all that. Baker's a good guy. And again, it just sucks to see anybody go through that and all that. So be praying for the Baker. All the best to him out there. And let's go to healthcare is free in Denmark. That's very good. It should be like that in the United States, but it's not. But again, just thoughts of the Baker and Broken Baker on YouTube, on X, and all the best over to him. So, all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mazda Media. Here we are live. It is Saturday, August 1st, 2026. We're now really starting to enter the last core month of the summer, June, July, and now August. And we're ready to go. We got a two-part show today. We're going to be talking about cops. We're going to be talking about the police cops, the police cops. We're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about Chief Donna McNamara of Stoughton. We're going to be talking about Officer Patrick Noonan of the North Andover Police Department. So we're going to start off with Stoughton. We're going to close out the show with North Andover and Patrick Noonan. Maybe even talk a little bit about the fire department in North Andover later in the show as well. Yes, we'll be talking about the cops, the police cops. All right. So, yeah, great show today for topics. Again, it's all about the cops, and we'll be talking about that today. So for those of you that tuned in this past Tuesday, I conducted a special episode of Mazda Media Live. This was the Stoughton Select Board that aired. Jenno, my mod, reached out to me last weekend and said, Mazda, I think it'd be great if you could cover this. And I said, will do. This story didn't seem to me at the time anything that I was really aware of. And then as I really started to look into it, it looked like this became a pretty wild story that was vastly interested, had a high level of interest from many people, including those of us in the true crime world, and those of the people that live in Stoughton, Massachusetts as well. And it ended up being a very, very massively attended select board meeting. And there was a lot to be said. And why don't we go over, well, let's start with this. The select board the day after has voted that Coulter, the town manager, and McNamara, the chief of police, are on paid leave. McNamara wasn't really too happy about that. I personally feel like it's good for now. It's not the best for now, but it's sufficient for now, for the time being, that she is, at least it's something that can be done to try to rectify at least something right now, while more is done, more is looked into, and all of that. There's no question that what's going on here. I might freeze a little bit. I'm playing around with my tabs in the background. I'm trying to get set up. I don't know what's going on with Chrome today, but it's just been very wonky. So and again, I don't know if X is down because this is what started before my show. I tried to go on X, and a lot of times I use X to remember certain things I'm going to talk about on the show, and it gets a little difficult for me when that browser's not this. It's just X. Every other tab is working except for X right now. I'm not sure if this is down, but this is driving me insane right now. I try to make sure I have my resources on my screen throughout my show because it helps me remember certain things as well. You know what I mean? Um, and plus, when I say things on the show, I want to make sure I'm being accurate about it. So sometimes I'll use information online just to kind of quickly fact check myself. It's one of the big things when you talk about these things is you have to make sure you're accurate. Um, but McNamara, this is really throwing me the heck off today. McNamara is not too happy about being on leave, but there was I had this information down. This is what I'm trying to find the information about what it pertained to her and that lawsuit that was happening on Friday. That's what I'm trying to find right now. Well, I'll just skip it for now. I'll get back to it. But essentially, there were some amendments to that, and it was something I had read through. I was going to go over it on the air. Sometimes I don't always go over everything in advance. I'd sometimes do it right on the air because these shows are kind of partially what I know, partially catch-up sessions for me. So again, Donna McNamara had a complaint that was out, and generally here, a lot of people showed up for the select board meeting on Tuesday, and many people had things to say. This was a highly attended show, a highly attended select board meeting, and again, there was endless people that had things to say here, and they came out in orange shirts, and these people came out basically ready to take it to the town select board and let them know exactly what they thought about this matter and what was going on. And as it turned out, there were a lot of issues with the town manager. And as things were developing this past week, we learned that this town manager pretty much had some run-ins with the fire department. Mullen Law, quick update. Mazza, her attorneys withdrew Friday's motion in light of the select board action. Thank you so much, Mullen Law. Yep, that's what I was thinking. It's just like sometimes like you fully remember things for the show, sometimes you don't. It's like, let me just catch up, make sure I'm accurate. Okay. I don't always pretend to be all knowing. You know what I'm saying? I don't present myself that way. Thank you, Tina, for the 350 joules. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you. So yes, this select board, this town came out in force, and this was great to see. This is a town, that really drew a strong parallel to Canton and Canton's residents that took on their select board and took on what was going on in their town. And for this town, this was about the town manager, Coulter, and his actions and what he did and what's going on with him. And what was most interesting about Thomas Coulter was he has had run-ins not only with this chief, but also with the fire department, and not only with the fire department, but also with many people in the town. And one of the things that was notable about this select board were the amount of residents that got up there throughout this particular select board meeting and had things to say, had run-ins with this town manager, and basically pretty much the entire town was up there calling this guy everything under the sun, which was wild, which was pretty intense, and again this was a massive outpouring of people on short notice. You had folks there. Thank you, Dizzy. That comment there. This was an amazing outpouring of people in town that had a lot to say. And when you look at these people and how festered up they were about all of this, there's no question that something's been bubbling underneath the surface in the town of Stoughton for quite a long time. Things that have been known, I'm sure, to the residents, people that are very familiar with Stoughton, but maybe unknown to say people like myself or potentially yourself, unless you were well aware. But this was again a very big outpouring, not for a situation that pertained to a murder situation like in Canton, but this pertained to a town manager. And a town manager who made severe, very strict, and shocking decisions about Chief Donna McNamara and essentially removing her as chief of police. This is why I think the paid leave is a good thing, because at least at some point it's restoring her to some status as the chief, even if she is on paid leave. And we all know about paid leave in North Andover, that eventually you can get your job back and return to work, whether you're a good cop or a bad cop, right? Or a good fire department person or not. So we have a town here that came out in force. They want the town manager out. They're sick and tired of him. And these people were referencing to numerous confrontations, numerous displays of outrageous behavior. And again, this is a situation. Thank you so much, Sarah B. Creative. Good to see you, Stephen. Good morning, Joy. Good morning, Tortoise. Good afternoon, I should say. This is a situation that is shocking. You have a chief of police. I mean, this is not like if Chief Gray in North Andover got fired. You know, nobody's probably showing up for that except maybe the cops, the police cops. But in this particular situation, you have people that are backing their chief. They believe in their chief in this town, which is refreshing to see. Because for so many of us that have covered or followed the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case, we don't really have a positive impression of the North Andover Police Department, to say the least. For those of us that have covered the Karen Reed, John O'Keefe, Turtleboy saga or followed that saga, we don't really have a favorable position on the Canton Police Department or the Massachusetts State Police Department, right? But we have a favorable position on police officer Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We have a favorable position on police officer John O'Keefe. And we have a favorable position on Chief Police Donna McNamara. Because at the end of the day, well, this group of all of us have been looked at as anti-Canton police, anti-North Andover police, and anti-Massachusetts State Police. As we've always said, that's not really the truth. What we really want is the best for our police department. And what we really want is our police departments acting in accordance with what we expect of them, is to be good, honest cops, to do the right thing. And while we all understand that cops out there may make mistakes, all cops may make mistakes. We completely understand that. All right. So we all understand that cops make mistakes out there. Even good cops make mistakes. There's things that go wrong. There's things that go bad. There are situations and circumstances that happen that sometimes cops have to deal with, and all hell breaks loose. And sometimes they have to eat crow over it, even though they might actually be a good cop. It's a very difficult job to be a cop. Your life is on the line every single day, and all hell can break loose at any single time. And there's no question that at the end of the day, I and so many others absolutely respect cops through and through, unless, of course, those cops give us a reason to not trust them, to not believe in them, to think that perhaps they actually may be corrupt. And that's exactly what's brought people to asking questions about the North Andover Police Department, asking questions about the Canton Police Department, asking questions about the Massachusetts State Police, and oh, we haven't forgot the Boston Police and Chief Commissioner Cox. You know, this is just the way this is. Good afternoon, Anita. Good afternoon, Caroline. Good to see everybody. And that's exactly what's happening in these towns, right? But like we've always said, we're not anti-police. We're anti-police corruption. This was a phrase that I feel like I, in part, helped kind of get out there. I know a few other people have said it. I feel like I was one of the people 2 years ago that was predominantly saying that, because we were getting called anti-police all the time. And while there is an anti-police culture in areas of our country in the United States, none more than 6 years ago, of course, you know, it's not like we can be categorized as anti-police. We want to make sure that there's an accuracy here, that what we're talking about is we're not anti-police, we're anti-police corruption. The bad cops must go. The good cops must stay. But what we often see at time and time again out there is that the good cops go down. Is John O'Keefe still a police officer? No. Why? Because he was murdered. Is Kelsey Fitzsimmons still active? No, because of what happened, right? These are things that happen. And good cops like John O'Keefe, good cops like Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and good cops like Chief McNamara either lose their lives, potentially lose their jobs, or, are somehow fired by a town manager, right? So this just proves through and through that no matter what our ideology is Kelsey, Karen, Turtleboy, John O'Keefe, whatever you want, Sandra Birchmore supporters, this is not a group of anti-police people, anti-police corruption. I understand. Look, I have friends that are cops that I've known my whole life. Good people. I've heard the stories. I have a pal of mine that's a cop in another state. We've talked over the years. He's told me what goes on in his department and the corruption. And basically, he feels like Serpico every single day he goes into work. And it's a crazy thing, but it's a fact of reality that my buddy has always been a true person through and through. He's always been honorable. He's always been straightforward, but there's no question when he goes to work, he sees things that happens, and he gets accused of being a bad cop, even though when he's doing the right thing too. It's a very slippery slope, but it's a thing that we need to bring attention to. This is not about shutting down police. We need the police. We absolutely need the police. This is why the police exist, to make sure that laws are enforced and that the public is protected. And Chief McNamara, in my opinion, by my estimation of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing from the select board meeting, was a chief of police that while she was actively serving, while she wasn't on leave or unjustly removed from a job without any level of interview or investigation, was doing her job. This is a community that is supporting her. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a community of people that support her, that rocked the orange shirts, rocked their signs, stayed there, and fought for this police chief. To let this town select board say, nah, no way, you're not getting away with this, without confrontation, without picketing, without petition. We're going to come out and we're going to say what we need to say about this. And this is exactly how our country should be run. Everything in our country should be analyzed. It should be quantified. It should be investigated. It should be reviewed. And the same goes for Chief McNamara. If there was an accusation against her, then that information should be investigated. But what happened to Chief McNamara was quite the opposite. There was no investigation. There was no review. It was pack your bags and take the train home. And that's controversial, especially in a town that has come to know their chief of police over a very long time, long before she was a chief of police, I gather. And this is a woman that was doing her job. This was a woman that didn't have any complaints against her. I'm sure people in the town here and there didn't like her. I'm sure people here and there in the town probably had run-ins with her because honestly, as a cop, that's par for the course. It's gonna happen. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you so much, Darlene. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. But that's exactly what happens here in this town. People say, look, this must be investigated because here's the thing. You just don't get rid of a chief of police or any officer without a level of investigation. And that's one of the biggest problems here. There was a complaint. Okay, what is the complaint? Who made the complaint? Who made the complaint? Right? We wonder. And I know, listen to me. I've heard the rumors of who it was. I've heard the rumors of who it was. Okay? And those rumors are circulating in certain parts of the internet right now. Okay? And that's also in this complaint, which we're going to go over. We're going to go over that complaint. Let's see, what do I have today? I got the Stoughton Select Board video. I got the complaint. Just because I got thrown off my game before my show. Usually I use my last 15 minutes of prep time to make sure I got the I talked about the paid leave. I got the complaint. And then I got the video up, and then I got everything I need for noon. Okay, looks like I'm good. Okay. I usually, the last couple minutes before my show are my delicate time to make sure I got everything prepped for my show and I have all my details organized. So I know what when I talk, I'm going to be okay. Now I'm bringing up the video. Now I'm bringing up the complaint. Now I'm bringing up the you want to make sure you're organized. But this computer today and this Google Chrome thing just threw me off my game so bad. But thank you guys so much for bearing with me through that today. And just allowing me the time I needed to get recentered here for my show today. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Um, but yes, that's the problem with this particular investigation. And that problem with the investigation is that there was none. There was none. None at all. And that's the bottom line. So we we have the complaint, which we're going to go over, but we're going to take some time here just to go over the select board meeting for a few minutes. We're going to play a few select people's comments. We're just going to bounce around. Maybe we'll play like 4 or 5 of them and just kind of play through it here a little bit. As what I did was I streamed this, but I only kind of gave my opinion in spots. Excuse me, in spots. So I'm going to take some time just to break this down a little bit more about what's going on in the town. So we have this woman was the second speaker, and she was one of the more notable speakers. All speakers were notable, but she seemed to be getting a lot of acclaim on the internet. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold says so. All right.
And the former selectman, Lou Gito, was not given information. This town manager tries to get slandered. Mr. McCrisky was caught in a hot mic asking for me to leave this town. Would be better off because I speak too much truth. It's unacceptable.
I'm gonna break this down. So I'm gonna be stopping this from time to time. But it's amazing to me, when you hear this in Canton at their select boards a lot over the years. I've heard a lot of people get up to that mic and talk about the persecutions for speaking out and what they've faced. And it's amazing to me that these kind of things go on in these towns. That's one thing that's always stood out to me is that you have people in powers of position that are saying these things about people. And I'm a little familiar with a few other select boards going back in my past. That I attended, I'll say, and you'll see that when you see these select boards, even some of the towns that don't have major incidents going on, you'll be shocked to see that a lot of them sometimes have a striking level of confrontations about, I would say, maybe trivial issues, issues that are maybe minor. And you'll be shocked at the way, I think I had an incident with a select board but 10 years ago. I had an issue with the select board because I was upset, and I wasn't upset. I was citing the fact that I felt that there was a traffic light that should have been placed in the town at a certain location. And I got in contact with the town, and I can't remember if it was the town manager or it was a select board member now, but the way that person responded back to me was so volatile. It was like, I want to be clear. I'm trying to basically warn you in advance that one day soon, there's probably going to be a major car accident here and somebody's going to die. Okay. Because I was driving through there very frequently, and it's like, this is crazy. There needs to be a traffic light here. And basically what I was told was, well, basically, if you can drum up $1 million and donate it to the town, we'll be willing to help you. And I'm like, wow, you guys don't want to put that to a vote? You guys don't want to put that to a vote? You guys don't want to maybe take into consideration that a person drives through your town is basically citing a potentially hazardous location, and there's a lot of wild drivers, and then there's a lot of drivers that aren't so sure of themselves in your town, and that somebody could get in a car accident, potentially die, and this could affect people's lives and insurances and well-being. And you want to basically say back to me that you want me to try to fork up $1 million to your town. That's why I say that, like, you'd be shocked that a lot of these town managers or select boards or some of these town people you talk to, they don't treat you in kind when you raise concerns, when you try to raise awareness, or you bring something up that is of an issue. And I'm not, and I'm not, historically, I'll just reach out if I think there's an issue. And I'm like, this intersection is going to be interesting. There's going to be something happen there. Well, I think a couple of years later, a cyclist rode through that area, got run off the road by a motor vehicle and literally almost died. from what I understand. So that is, from what I understand, um, what had happened in that area a couple years later. And I don't know if they ever got any lights there, but it's again, it's the level of negligence sometimes. I know that. Well, that's exactly my point as well. That I agree as well. Exactly. That was exactly my argument. What they it's going to cost $1 million for a traffic light? Are you serious? Give me a break. That's exactly what I said. I was like, I figured maybe it would be like maybe like 50,000. I don't know. I don't buy traffic lights. But yeah. It's crazy. And that's just it's amazing how little things like that when you go to a town, and this isn't every town. What I'm trying to say is that you'll be shocked that it's not just these particular towns, it could be other towns as well, where there's this level of like nonsensical back and forth between a member of the town and their town committees. You elect these people are in power. You're a person of the town coming to the town to try to raise awareness about an issue or bring a concern to your town. And you've seen what's happened in Canton. You've seen the people that have gone to the microphone in Canton. You've seen what's happened. You've seen people that basically have had acid-filled water balloons thrown on their property, such as Rita Lombardi, Dennis and Brenda Sweeney. You saw what happened. Then you look at this town. You have this townswoman here that's brought concerns. People are slandering her. They're saying horrible things about her. And I think that if you're going to represent a town, you have to understand that you look. And from just to be from their perspective, I understand. I understand that when you take duty before your town. There's always going to be those people in your town that are like, should be back now. The audio should be good now. Okay, we should be back now. You have people that have major complaints. I get a little notification that has been popping up, so I should be back now. You have these people that have major complaints that get up there, and sometimes I should be here now. I should be here now. Okay, some people are on delay. So you have people that have complaints that matter. But then you have some people in your town that sometimes talk about these little minute little things every single week. They're bringing up the same little tiny thing, and they're just like, "We really don't have time." Okay, folks, I'm not muted anymore. All right. So start putting ones in the chat if I'm not muted. I apologize. It's just getting a little frustrated. I'm not frustrated with the chat. I'm just frustrated with the system. It's because of my new camera and my new mic that's causing this. No, thank you, Steve. Thank you. All right, we should be good now with the audio. Yeah, it's giving me. Occasionally it pops up with a little notification. It happened twice. I don't know why, but it looks like it's good now. Thank you guys so much. And I appreciate everyone that let me know I am muted, just so I could recognize it if this thing wasn't giving me a notification. So thank you guys so much for that. I appreciate it. But yes, sometimes it's frustrating because when I get on a roll in this show and the mic's like, boom, suddenly we're kicking your audio out. It's like, no, I'm on a roll. Yeah, we do need Adam Deitch so badly. So again, like I understand, like from a select board perspective, looking at it from their perspective, that sometimes they might have people that talk about those little things. Like you had a lady at the North Andover select board meeting when they had that major town meeting that was concerned about a new fire department being approved because she was worried about salamanders. Most people in society do not care about the salamanders, but you have that salamander person that's going to get up there and bring somebody, please think about the salamanders. Maybe I'm being negligent, not realizing how important salamanders are. And maybe that's a weakness of mine, but most people don't care about salamanders, but you have sometimes people like that in the town that bring up the little tiny little minute little things. And you just, as a select board member, you're like, But you also have people like this that bring, attention to their town. You have people in Canton that bring attention to the town about certain matters. Yeah, say that certain salamanders, certain matters. But sometimes these people get, categorized as a nuisance. They get categorized as, oh, it's this lady again. Yeah. Oh, every week she's talking about this. She's been talking about it for a year. We don't have the budget, or we don't care about her concerns, and then, again, if that's your attitude, I guess if you're the select board member or the town manager, I guess maybe you have the right to do that. However, you don't have the right to start slandering people. You don't have the right to start saying, I think this person should move out of town. You have a responsibility to serve your town at the end of the day. And I understand, look, sometimes certain residents can be a frustration for a select board, but at the same time, certain members and certain of the select board and certain town members, managers, can be frustrating for people in their town. And I think the best thing that we can always have in our society, in our country, in our states, in our local government and towns is the ability to have open communication, which is the ability to sit there and say, whether you agree or disagree, an ability to come to the table, have a discussion, talk about the matters of concern, and try to bring about resolution. The town of Canton has worked very hard. Their select board has changed. Their police chief has changed over the years. What's gone on has changed, right? Canton is not a fully repaired town as of yet. However, if you look at Canton now compared to 2023 or 2024, you'll see a world of difference in terms of how things have changed in that town just by simply watching a select board meeting. So there has been production. There has been, things that have happened in a positive manner. And this will happen for Stoughton as well. It's just a matter of, like you've seen in our state, it's about fighting. And that's what these people have come to do, which is why I respect these people so much for coming out in force, getting out there and doing the first thing that needs to be done. And when you look at North Andover right now, and you look at the people that have been reinstated to the fire department and the police department in North Andover, is it because maybe only Audrey Elliott has stepped to the microphone? Is it only because maybe after the trial, about 3 other people stepped to the mic and had something to say? Is it because in North Andover, there aren't people that really care about what's happened to Kelsey Fitzsimmons enough, or the people that are on their police departments and fire departments enough to actually get to the mic and say something? And that's a concern that I have, about a town like North Andover, where it's like you want to see people, if people are sitting there and they believe this, why don't they get out? And it could just be because it's a different town. Maybe the people in North Andover, maybe they just have a different ideology than the people in Canton or the people in Stoughton. I don't know. But I can't imagine what's happened in North Andover this week going down so smooth in the town of Canton and going down so smooth in the town of Stoughton. The town of Stoughton, the town of Canton, they would be filling that select board up. But let's maybe I'll pause, because there is a select board coming up in the middle of August, and I'll be covering that live on Mazda Media. I'll be covering the next Stoughton select board meeting on the 11th, and I'll be covering the next, let me see here. I'm starting to put these things in my calendar now. Let's see what we got. 1 second. Let's see what we got. All right. August. Tuesday the 11th is Stoughton. And the next select board meeting for, let me actually date this a day in advance. The next Stoughton select board meeting is on the 11th. And the next North Andover select board meeting is on the 17th. So I'll be covering both of those back-to-back weeks. We'll have live coverage of that on both shows. We'll be streaming those live on this channel. We'll get coverage of that. And again, maybe here's the thing. Maybe the people in North Andover will show up to the microphone now. Besides Audrey Elliott, we'll get there, be there, show up, and do what the town of Stoughton's doing. And I hope to see them. Again, this is not about causing chaos. This is about raising awareness of what people believe in their town, what they think, how they feel, what they believe, how they see things. right? I never removed that select board start time thing from my banner. Now that I see that, huh? That thing's still trickling along the bottom of the screen. Oh, there we go. All right, save that. There we go. All right. So yeah, we'll cover those next two, the next Stoughton Select Board on the 11th, and we'll cover the next North Andover Select Board meeting on the 17th. We'll cover both of those right here on Massive Media. All right. So yeah. Yeah, so the way it works is if you're an independent voter. So during a primary, well, this is a good conversation. Let's talk about this right now. Steve, I'll answer your question. So what happens is when you so a primary election precedes a formal election, right? A formal election is typically Republican versus Democrat versus any independents that are on the ballot, right? But the primary elections are always for parties, such as your Democrat, like the Adam Deitch primary against Greg Conner, against DeJuna Perkins or DeWanna, I think it's Juna Perkins. I always forget how to say her name. So the way that works is that that's a Democratic primary. That same day, a Republican primary will be held, right? So what happens is if you're a Republican, registered Republican, when you go to your precinct at your town to vote, they'll ask you, what your name is, what your address is, and you'll say that. And then they'll see you're a registered Republican or Democrat. You'll get a primary ballot if you're a member of a particular party. So a registered Democrat can only vote for Democrats. A registered Republican can only vote for a Republican primary ballot. Now, if you're independent, what's great about that is you have a choice. So you can go there and you're going to say, I'm my name, my address. They're going to say, I see that you're a registered independent. How are you voting today? Do you want a Republican ballot or would you like a Democratic ballot? You cannot vote in both, but you can vote in one. So that's the option that they give you. So everybody gets one ballot. And then you get to choose what how you want to vote. So they'll say, how are you voting today? And you'll say, because they'll know you're an independent because they'll see it. And then they'll just ask you, would you like a Republican or Democrat? You'll just ask for a Democratic ballot because you're going to be voting for Adam Deitch. And that's how that all works. If anybody's independent or unenrolled, that's the way it works in the state. If you're in Massachusetts, again, they'll just ask you as an independent, how are you voting today? Would you like a Republican ballot or a Democratic primary ballot? And then you just vote for that. So, and again, if you're voting for Adam Deitch and you're independent, you want to make sure that you ask for a Democratic primary ballot when you go to vote. And you'll be able to vote for Adam Deitch. And typically, predominantly, Democrats are going to typically win in a town, a lot of Massachusetts towns. So pretty much whoever wins that primary is basically, pretty much going to win the general election, later in the year. So, and this is a big year in elections. This is a midterm election year in our country. A lot of people are up. Governors, a lot of Senate races, a lot of House of Reps races. So this is a big year. This is a big election year. And in a lot of ways, maybe a bigger presidential elections are huge, but the midterms are huge because there's a lot of seats, up for grabs. And there's a lot of gubernatorial races going on, things like that. So it will be interesting. Yeah, no, it's good. And that's the thing too, is that there's a lot of new voters that might be voting for the first time. And, knowing that, being an independent, at least you can exactly have a say on what you want to do in terms of voting. So yeah, big election year and all over our country this year, this November. So Adam Deitch will be there. There is an Adam Deitch fundraiser coming up soon, by the way, as well. Looking to be next weekend. I'm not hosting it, but I will be involved in it. So look for some news on that. Emily C. and Mizzy. I'm not sure if they even announced it yet. But maybe I just spoiled it. But there you go. There will be it's inside of the bag. Yeah, there's a Adam Deitch fundraiser next Saturday, August 8th. Emily C. and Mizzy. That's going down. I hope I didn't announce it before she did. Sorry, Emily. But yep, Adam Deitch fundraiser coming up. We're going to be doing that again. So I'm going to try to participate as much as I can and track some of the numbers throughout that fundraiser and keep that going. So, she did. Okay, great. Oh, that's fantastic then. Fantastic. So that's good to hear. Thank you so much. I'll just get Tortoise's leaving. So Tortoise, thank you so much. I can't stay, but I want to show some appreciation for Mazda before I go. No bigger heart in all of YouTube land. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so good. And must enroll Republican by 8/22 to vote in the primary on 9/1. Vote in the primary, yeah, for any party, I'd imagine, right, Lori? For the 8/22. Oh, you must enroll in general, right? So whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, or unenrolled. Oh, you must unenroll. Oh, I read that wrong. You must unenroll if you. Okay, I see. So if you're an enrolled Republican who wants to vote for Adam Deitch, you have to unenroll as a Republican to either enroll as a. I'm sure most Republicans would probably unenroll to go to independent over Democrat, but um, unless they wanted to go Democrat, then they'd roll Democrat, and then you can vote for Deitch if you're unenrolled as a Republican. If you're a Republican, if you unenroll by 8/22, then you can register as an independent or a Democrat to get a Democratic ballot on the primary on 9/1. Okay, and then you can vote for Adam Deitch. Okay, understood. And I guess you can always enroll back if you wanted to. Um, understood. Understood. Thanks. Yes, that is correct. So that is correct. I think you have the ability to run independently. Yeah, I think you can always run independently, from what I understand, because the primary election the is to get the Democratic or Republican candidates selected for the primary election, not the primary election, the general election. And then after that, you can always like say, well, I'm going to run again as an independent. So that could be interesting. If Adam Deitch does lose to Greg Connor in the primary, if he decides to run as an independent, and that might not actually be a bad idea, because that might, you know, I don't think the votes are going to split between Connor and Deitch against the Republican, but that might be an interesting tactic. That might actually be pretty brilliant, Mr. Monk's understudy, quite honestly. But yes, we'll be having a fundraiser next Sunday. Emily C. and Mizzy. There's going to be a lot of big guests on this, and I mean big guests that are coming on that fundraiser next week. So that should be huge. No question about that. I'm looking forward to that fundraiser. And again, raising money is the biggest thing we can do. We've seen what's happened with Kelsey, Karen, Turtleboy, anybody like that that's had funds raised. That will be huge. That's definitely for sure. I think Adam Deitch is going to get a pretty solid chunk of independent voters too. So I think that a lot of people that are. And I think Adam Deitch is probably going to, of independent voters, will probably get the biggest share of independent voters in the primary. And whether or not him or Connor win that primary, and both of them ran in the formal election in November, I think that Adam Deitch is going to get a significant margin of independent voters, is my particular opinion. Because I think that you're going to have like a lot of people that have Republican and independent ideologies that are, whether they're for or against Democratic candidates, they're gonna have an ideology where they want a candidate that's gonna change, the Norfolk County, and I think Norfolk County, and I'm just gonna say it, I think this is bigger than political parties in Norfolk County right now. I don't think that, I mean, Adam Deitch may be a Democrat, but I don't think voting for him or against him is a matter of being Democrat. I think this is a matter of voting for a candidate that is really just going to change the nonsense in Norfolk County. I think that's what people that are voting in this election are voting for. And I think that there's people who are going to vote for Connor because they're anti Karen Reed. They're anti Turtleboy. They want to see Morrissey continue. So I think there's going to be a lot of like party lines that are kind of crossing wires here, where you might see the most significant like inner wiring of votes from people that typically vote one way or another based on party, that are really voting in this election because of what's going on. So I think that in this election, that the parties are almost like, what party they're in is almost like not even on the table as much as it is for what's been going on with the Karen Reed stuff. That's my personal thought on that matter. Right. I think there's going to be a significant margin of people that don't typically vote at all, that register as independents just to simply vote for Adam Deitch, or maybe some of them registered as a Democrat for all we know. So yeah, this is this should be very unique. Exactly. Mr. Muxunda today, he goes, I agree with you 100% about independents going huge for Deitch. And in the general election, Deitch would get so many. I agree. Exactly. That's definitely what I think as well. I think there's going to be a very unique vote. I think there's going to be a percentage of voters that are just coming to vote for him. They're just like, the only reason why I showed up here today is because I'm sick of what's going on in Norfolk County. I don't usually vote in elections. I don't care about elections. But I just seen what's going on with this Karen Reed stuff, and I'm just here to vote for Deitch. I think there's going to be a share of people like that. If they're doing exit polls, I'd be interested to know, like, what people showed up that day just because they were just tired of Michael Morrissey. And they're like, I'm a free Karen Reed supporter. I don't usually vote in elections. I don't care Republican, Democrat, or different. I'm just here to vote for Adam Deitch. I'm interested to know how many people are going to show up to vote that have that ideology. That's just like, this is just a specific trip to the polls for them. And I'm interested in knowing that. So I'm interested in seeing like what the voter turnout's going to be of people that don't typically vote in these particular elections that come out for this. Because I think that this is a issue that's motivating. And I also think that for every person in Norfolk County that's vocal, whether that's a great content creator like Emily C, Boozy Beauty, who are very vocal online, to townspeople like you see in Stoughton or Canton, that are very vocal. I think that still a silent majority of people that are out there that are not often people that tune into shows like mine and other shows that watch but don't necessarily comment, are kind of there, behind the scenes tuning in, that are having these conversations privately in their own homes, that maybe don't even have Adam Deitch lawn signs, for example, or free Karen Reed lawn signs, that do intend to say, you know what, we never vote, husband and wife talking in the kitchen, we don't usually vote, but I'm in fear for what's going on around here. And I'm tired of what's happened to Sandra Birchmore, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, what's going on. This is crazy. I don't like what Michael Morrissey's doing, but I don't want anybody to know. Well, we're going to go to the ballot. And we're sending 2 votes for Adam Deitch, and you might have a lot of people out there that are of that ideology. You look at the people in Stoughton here that came out in force who thought that was going to happen. This was a story that just kind of blossomed. And all of a sudden, here's this entire town coming out to vote. So I think that there's going to be people out there as well, which is going to be interesting to see the returns on Adam Deitch's votes, because I'm curious to see how many people are going to come out of the woodwork that are, again, that have been watching all these shows, that have been quietly supporting Karen Reed or whatever's going on out there, they're again, we're getting in the car that day, we're going down to our local high school or polling station, we're grabbing those ballots, we're dinging them for Deitch, and we're getting this guy elected because we're done with Morrissey. We're not going to have Greg Connor. We're not going to have more of the same in this county. And just like the mayor, Goldie Wilson, said in Back to the Future, I'm going to clean up this town. Good. You can start by cleaning up the floor. But you know what? You have to start by cleaning up the floor in every single town, which is cleaning up the small problems all the way up to the big problems. And Goldie Wilson did become elected mayor of Hill Valley and Back to the Future. So he did clean up that town. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting election. I'm definitely excited for it. I'm fired up for it, and I'm looking forward to people getting out there and voting for Adam Deitch that Tuesday and seeing what ends up happening. So I'm fired up for it, and can't wait. Cannot wait for all of that. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see what goes on and see what's done. And praying for Norfolk County basically is what I'm doing. Is that there's change. And again, I believe in Adam Deitch because, again, I believe, given the set of circumstances, this is a situation where the candidate, in my opinion, this is just my viewpoint, I just think if I'm living in Norfolk County, the candidate I want is somebody that's willing to go out there and bring about change and get out there and say, look, I'm not going to turn a blind eye to this. And that was my issue with Juna Perkins is Perkins doesn't really, in my opinion, have enough interest in bringing about that change. And that's what I find concerning about her as a candidate. I think obviously if you had to pick between her and Connor, she's the person that I think would be the better vote. But I think Adam Deitch is more focused on attacking issues that matter and all that as well. Scott McGinnis is here today. Scott McGinnis, one of the foremost um, uh, petitioners, picketers, justice warriors out there on the front lines, whether it's Kelsey, Karen, Turtleboy. He's been out there for years, whether it's been really hot or really cold, raining or indifferent. He says, I believe Chief McNamara is being railroaded because Stoughton Town Manager Coulter is decades long buddies with Michael Morrissey, and Chief McNamara cooperated with the FBI. I 100% agree. I think that there's no question about that as well. While the Coulter Michael Morrissey buddy thing, I don't have enough information to be certain about that yet or to say it as a fact. I do believe that that sounds very much like a likelihood and would not be shocked if that is true. But ultimately, of all the things you've said, Chief McNamara cooperated with the FBI. No question set this off. And I'd add her internal investigation as well. And that's no question what's going on here. But again, you have these people in this town that are coming out here and they're outraged. They're up in arms because they've seen their town literally have a chief upended out of nowhere. And that is absolutely insane. So let's continue here.
And you need to hold this town manager accountable. And you, Miss Roberts.
And I'm happy they got Coulter on paid leave. At the very least, they got him on paid leave. But would he be on paid leave right now if McNamara didn't stand and fight? Would he be on paid leave right now if this town didn't stand and fight? I wonder. But that just goes to show you that you always have to fight in situations like this. You always have to stand up, be heard. And again, we've talked about, what I perceive as a lack of change in North Andover, and Audrey Elliott's been left to stand there often on her own. Strength is in numbers. And while one voice does matter, sometimes that voice can be diluted if it's just one person, because you can be written off as, oh, this is that lady that comes up every week. And, you can be written off easily, which is what's sad, because Audrey fought for her town in North Andover and she's as passionate as anybody in that town about change. And to me, it's sad to see her get up there by herself so often. But I applaud her because it's harder to get up there by yourself than it is with so many by your side. So definitely nothing but respect for Audrey Elliott. But again, these people in this town came out in force and showed the town what they believe.
Should not be encouraging him to bald-face lie about citizens without giving the citizen respect, semblance of investigation. Thank you very much.
Peter Petresco, 587 Canton Street.
Yeah, that was to Steve's point here. He goes, I don't like Perkins at all. She was quoting the Gretchen Voss article like she is a real journalist and not a liar propagandist. I agree with that 100%. That's a major, and as far as running a campaign, and especially because Perkins is getting a percentage of Karen Reed supporters, that kind of comment when you have potential Karen Reed supporters, not a good look. Not a good look. Those votes could be, you don't know if those voters are now going to look at that the very same way you did, Steve, and say, you know what? Well, I was going to vote for Perkins until she made that comment. Now I'm going to turn my vote to Adam Deitch. So we'll see if that ends up happening.
Peter, hold on.
Elected to last Tom Coulter, knowing that he has anger management problems. That's why they got rid of him as the administrator in Kingston, yet you still hire him. Nobody can figure out why you did that. But also, a couple of years back, he threatened me twice to destroy.
A town manager threatening a townsperson twice. Now, I'll be honest. I'm always skeptical until I can see proof of that. But honestly, at the end of the day, do you really think this guy would just go up to the select board and lie about something like that? Therefore, I believe him. I believe him 100%. That, I have heard from people that are from this town that say this guy is a very good gentleman. And you think he would just get up there that night and say, you know what? Oh, I just hate Coulter, so I'm going to make this stuff up. No way. He said, if this guy's yelling at gentlemen like this, that's a problem for me and everybody else.
Me personally, and my show, And I wrote a letter, a page, and then when I got it all done, I decided not to send it here because I knew you guys wouldn't do anything. But a year and a half later, he went after Scott Carrara in his seat for 5 minutes, ranting and raving him, degrading him. And the chairman at the time was Steve Gavey. He never once banged the gavel to say, Mr. Calder, you're out of order. I think he did that because he's got no spine, because either he wanted the town manager to go after Scott, or he was afraid if he gavelled him down, the town manager would go after him. Now, the thing is, if in you, Mrs. Roberts, you always say you take these things seriously. That was just 6 months ago when we brought it up again, me and Miss Lyons, and I try to say you weren't telling the truth, but you shut me down and went for recess. That's how you shut people down. So all three of you, Gavey, Garvey, and Mr. Krisky, are at fault for this. If you had taken actions when he threatened me twice.
So that gets back to what, right? This guy's had some incidences. This is and that's the thing about situations like this is when for someone like me, learning about Coulter is a brand new thing, right? But then a story like McNamara happens, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe what's happened to McNamara. Who is behind us? Oh, it's this Coulter guy. But then you have people in the town, people in the fire department, that get up there and say, oh, do I have stories for you about Coulter? Oh, do I have stories? And then they get up there, just like this gentleman is, and they tell you all about it. And they also tell you with foresight, if you had listened to me when I came to you some time ago telling you about this guy threatening me, you wouldn't be dealing with this now. Which is why when he gets up there, he has this lack of confidence in the select board, as he should, that this select board would do nothing and did nothing about any of this. And that's one of the wildest things about all of it, is that sometimes people try to warn you about stuff or see things going on in their town. And again, when something like this explodes, they're not going to shy away from getting right to that microphone and saying, told you this guy was a problem. Now look at all the people behind me. Look what's going on in this town. Look what's gone down and all that.
We wouldn't be here today because he would have been long gone. Thank God he picked the wrong person, and that's why everybody's in trouble. Thank you.
That's it.
Hello, my name is Donna Rosenblatt, and I'm in Precinct 7. And I, too, have suffered the wrath of Tom. And I have come to this board in the past to tell you that I had a person get up in my face and shout, shut the F up 5 times in my face. And I thought he was going to punch me. And I told you how nervous I was. And you said you would take this seriously. You would do something about it. And nothing got done. I had one of the selectmen running around saying that it was a he said, she said situation, trying to make me look bad and trying to make it look like I was lying. And when I came to any of you, well, not all of you, some of you, like you weren't even here. So, I mean, I'm not talking about everyone, but the problem is if we come to you like we're supposed to and ask you for help or ask you to intervene in some way, you don't do it. I echo Peter's words. This is why we're here, because you didn't do your job.
And this is what happens when people go, this is what I get concerned about is people come with individual complaints, right? And you can get sometimes written off as an individual, like, oh, well, you can be that way sometimes, right? Oh, well, what's he said, she said, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, maybe you misread the situation. You can be looked at like that. But here's the thing. If so many people have filed complaints against this guy, they're not aware of all the complaints, a long list of complaints that, maybe a dozen to 24, maybe 1 to 2 dozen people in that town have come before the select board and said, hey, look, this town manager's an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, you think that they haven't heard from people in this town before about these situations, about, whatever's gone on? I doubt it. It's easy for one person to go to the town and complain, and the town and be like, well, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But you look at the people getting up at the select board. You get numerous people getting up there so far already, 3 or 4 of them. And all saying they've talked to the select board about this town manager being a problem. This select board's not aware of numerous complaints. How many complaints were there against McNamara? Why did she lose her job so quickly at the hands of Coulter? They're right to put her on paid leave. they're right to do that because, I would say that McNamara has a hell of a lawsuit on her hands, and that town knows they're about to get sued really bad, especially when their town manager is saying, I'll tell you this much, the next chief won't be a woman. Well, if the Chief McNamara is going for gender discrimination, that's a hell of a thing to reference in a gender discrimination suit, just to say the least. So that's just incredible.
But I must say to the board this evening that I haven't been feeling proud lately. Instead, I've been feeling deeply angry, saddened, and confused by what has been unfolding in our local government. This is a milestone year for us. This is a year in which we should celebrate our town's 300th birthday. We should be celebrating our rich history and our unity. Instead, we find ourselves divided, gathered in the center of town, protesting to rallies in the support of Chief Donna McNamara, the very first female chief in our town's history. What leaves me completely confused and angry is the other lack of respect shown to our local institutions. How is it that someone who doesn't even live in this town can throw someone out with 25 years of service like Tuesday's trash? We are always our worst enemy. Every time I feel this town has taken 2 steps forward in progress, something comes up and we take 5 steps backwards in regression. 50 years in this town has taught me that Stoughton is at its best when our leaders operate with transparency, respect, and an unwavering commitment to the public trust. Right now, that trust has been completely broken. A multi-decade career of dedicated service should mean something. It should not be dismissed by an outsider behind closed doors. We need stability, we need accountability, and we need clear leadership from the board to break this cycle. We cannot allow internal politics to overshadow the community we have spent 3 centuries building. I ask this board tonight to take a hard look at the direction we are heading. Please take the necessary actions to restore transparency, protect our dedicated public servants, and bring this focus back to the community in which we all love. Thank you.
Now I look at this guy and I say to myself, this guy didn't throw any insults. He didn't throw any jabs. He didn't take any low blows. He went up there and just simply petitioned his select board. He went up there and just said, hey, look, this is how I see it. This is how I analyze it. He makes a good statement. He talks about the history of the town. He talks about many different values and virtues and gets up there and says things how you should say. And I think that everybody that went up there did so with a level of very good internal balance. They were very much centered mentally and how they presented themselves. They weren't there to necessarily attack or cause chaos. They were there to basically say, hey, look, as a person of this town, what we're seeing we don't like, we don't appreciate it. We're not here to cause problems. We are here to raise awareness for an issue that we see in our town that affects this town. And when a chief of police is let go like that, that's a major problem for us as townspeople. And you have to appreciate the way these people got up there, all presenting themselves very well and presenting themselves with a great level of balance. And I appreciate that kind of presentation from these people.
It's come to my attention that the town manager has violated the select board's press release by speaking to the Boston Globe about employment matters and didn't follow town policy regarding complaints against employees. We've heard multiple comments here, and my request of the board is that you seek guidance from the HR director and our legal counsel to see how to proceed. There's this pattern going on where the select board does not seem in the right position to take care of the behavior of the town manager. If you look at the Massachusetts general laws, human resources is to support the elected governing board and the town manager to ensure that all town and state policies are met, followed, and if they are not, that disciplinary action or corrective action be taken. So I hope the board is engaging the HR director and legal counsel to address all of these issues. Thank you.
Again, this woman got up there, very professional. Her speech is, again, like Steve said in the comments, not accusatory, not volatile, just very, very much, making good points, making key points, making their voices heard, and very job well done.
Hello, my name is Vaughn Anokian, Precinct 4, town meeting representative. I know all of you sitting here. I was on the finance committee for 9 years. I worked with everyone here before me.
I like that you have a guy here, because every person that gets up and speaks brings a unique take, a unique position. And you have a guy here that's actually worked for the town now getting up. And this is a big argument too, just like everybody's voice is big. Because this guy knows a few people in town. Now he's even getting up there like, you know what?
I've worked on political campaigns. I've worked on Martin Luther King commencement things. I've worked on budget things with everyone here. And I come before you today to essentially say I'm very disappointed. I've heard a lot about bullying here today. And a few months back, the town manager said cruel and demeaning words to a woman town meeting rep. She can't be here tonight, but authorized me to speak.
All right, so I'm going to stop there because this is good. This is again talking about his lack of decorum is what he's going over here. This guy is saying demeaning statements, being demeaning to people.
For you today to essentially say I'm very disappointed. I've heard a lot about bullying here today, and a few months back, the town manager said cruel and demeaning words to a woman town meeting rep.
There you have it. That's that lack of professionalism that he's citing right there. There's a formal meeting in progress. This guy can't even maintain decorum. And if he's acting this way, that's a problem. You know, your fire department's fire department didn't hold back any punches at all. When they got out and released a statement, did they? They got right out there and had a lot to say. That's big. That's very big in our situation. Any town that's in a situation like this is, this guy, you know, is being accused of this, but also there's meetings that they can cite back and say, hey, look, at this meeting and that meeting, he's not acting the way he should. And we need to do something about this, as opposed to getting rid of our chief police because she wants to dig in on things and do internal. I mean, a chief of police should be able to do internal affairs investigations on her own police department because she's the chief of police. But it's an issue if she cooperates with the federal government, because God forbid she tells the federal government what she knows about her police department, as it may or may not pertain to the Sandra Birchmore case.
She can't be here tonight, but authorized me to speak on this. She's my wife, Katie Pina Anokin. She sent an email to the board. The board did not reply. A week later, she sent a follow-up email. Still no reply from the board to her. Then finally a response showed up, but it wasn't addressed to her. It was from, don't forget to silence your ringers. It was from.
Not only does this guy make a great speech, he also reminds people in the middle, you know, especially when he's talking, silence your ringers, people, silence your cell phones. Come on.
The chairman of the board to the board, telling the board that he had spoken with a town manager and a town meeting rep, and that Katie had interrupted some conversation, so therefore no further investigation was warranted. The fact that these cruel and demeaning words were said, that shouldn't be justified. And that's why I come here. I'm just coming here to say I'm disappointed that that response or lack of response, and we hear a lot about bullying, and that's going on now is really nothing new because it was pointed out to this board in the past. Thank you very much for your time.
Now, I'll say this too. I think that it is, I mean, to the select board's credit, I'm sure the select board has more than their fair share of issues or controversies of lack of action. But at the very least, Coulter's on paid leave at this point. He probably shouldn't be, but he'd probably just be fired right off the bat. But at the very least, he is on paid leave. That puts a pause to him for at least a while. You know, the paid leave thing is terrible. But again, you know, if you are going to fire your town manager, you know, you have to make sure you have your ducks in a row before you do that. It's the same thing with McNamara. If you're going to fire somebody, you really have to make sure you have your ducks in a row before you do that. So I would say, as much as people do want him fired now, as a town, if you're going to actually fire him, before you do that, you better sure you conduct an investigation, because you should investigate before you do that, right? So you know exactly what's going on, what your reasons for termination are, what the violations are. So if a paid leave is necessary for now for Coulter and McNamara, I don't have a problem with that, just because, again, this town needs to make sure they have their ducks in a row, no pun intended, before they make action, because you've seen what's happened with McNamara. What's she going to do? she's going to turn around and sue the town. If they get rid of Coulter, as much as people don't like him, he could turn around and sue the town. So they want to make sure, if they're intending to actually fire him, if this select board actually has the gall to do it, they want to make sure that they, have that well presented. So I don't know how the select board is going to go with that. I'd say it's a positive step forward that he is at least on paid leave for now, but how that plays out long term is going to be remaining to be seen. And I'm sure there's some confidence lacking towards the select board to actually fire him down the road. I'm not sure if what they're going to end up doing is bringing McNamara back or force. I don't know if Coulter's going to resign. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is going to be a very interesting turn of events in the coming weeks here, as far as this goes. But again, I have questions about the select board actually taking action. A couple of townspeople have actually said that, even though he's on paid leave, will they go all the way with this? If they conduct an investigation on Coulter, will they actually follow through with the firing or termination or force him maybe to resign? Will Coulter resign? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, if you're in Coulter's position, even if the select board did vote to keep you on, it's not going to be a real comfortable situation being a town manager of a town where most of the people, or at least a strong majority of people, don't like you. And you don't even live in that town to begin with. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out in the coming weeks or months. But that's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening. But we'll say, at the very least, the paid leave for both of them, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think that everything right now, if I was on a select board, I'd say, okay, there's a lot going on here. They probably should have been more aware of it anyways. But let's just put everything on hold right now. Paid leave for both. Let's shut this down. Let's conduct an investigation. Let's figure out what's going on. Obviously, at the end of the day, McNamara should be restored as chief. It's just a matter now, in my opinion, of what's going to happen with Coulter. I think Coulter should resign. I think this town should fire him and get him out of there. And I think that, if I'm running this town or if I'm a select board member, I'm gathering information from all the townspeople. Tell me what you got. Tell me what you got. What's document? What information, of any accusations, what of those accusations are actually documented? Do we have things on video, perhaps? Are there any town meetings that we recorded that this guy snapped at someone? And if this guy ever gets fired by us and turns around and sues the town in court, we can turn around and say, well, here's a town meeting from March, and here's this guy snapping at a town resident. Here's information about him firing the chief of police, but the chief of police didn't have any investigation. We didn't think that this is how this town has been managed well. So I think at the same time, if you're a town, if you are going to fire somebody or get them out of there, you also have to make sure that when you do that, you have the ability to back yourself up in court if sued. And it's clear to me that they don't have the goods to back up anything against McNamara's firing, because they folded like the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl 4 times when they had to face McNamara in her lawsuit and these people in this particular town. So I think that that's a big statement that's been made. I think that McNamara is going to win out in all of this. I just think that the fate of Coulter as town manager is the biggest question right now. I think they're going to restore McNamara as chief. I think that that's happening. I think it just might take a while. It's going to be a process. It's going to be, even McNamara, she was interviewed, really wasn't happy, but end of the day, she's going to have to probably just wait out a little bit before she gets back in there. But I project she's going to get back in there. And I project maybe a resignation coming from Coulter or a firing. When that happens, I don't know. But I'd say, look, these people made great progress. They petitioned their select board the next day. He was placed on paid leave, which I think is a great thing. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to move forward here to the actual complaint. So we're going to step away from the select board portion just for the purposes of time today. And let me zoom in on this. Is that too much of a zoom? We'll zoom out just a little bit more. All right, let's go here and then let's do this. Okay, so this is the complaint from Donna McNamara. This is Donna McNamara versus the town of Stoughton and Thomas Coulter. We're not going to go over all of this. We're just going to go over a portion of this and get over this. So this is July 27th, 2026, 7:37 a.m. This was filed. It's a verified complaint and jury demand. This complaint arose out of the defendants, Town of Stoughton and Thomas C. Coulter's unlawful actions toward plaintiff, Stoughton Police Chief Donna McNamara, ineffectively and unlawfully stripping her of her contractual right to be the police chief for the town and serve the citizens of this community in which she grew up. Less than 48 hours after Chief McNamara filed a harassment complaint with the Stoughton Select Board against Coulter, their current selection for town manager, the town issued a statement to the media naming an acting Stoughton police chief and claiming Chief McNamara had voluntarily stepped down from her duties, which is not true. All right. So that went down. Chief McNamara's harassment complaint against Coulter alleges that he had been engaging in a pattern of gossip and disparagement against her while also calling and texting her on her cell phone virtually every day for 2 weeks prior to her complaint in an attempt to intimidate her into resigning from her position. Now, of course, if this ever goes to court, I'm sure that McNamara would have no problem producing all those phone call records. Defendants are prohibiting Chief McNamara from doing her duties, even though to date they have provided no lawful reason to do so. Meanwhile, Coulter continues a relentless campaign to assassinate her reputation through a pattern of legally actionable and misogynistic words and conduct against the town's first female police chief and only female officer, which must end with this court action. Section 2. Jurisdiction is invoked pursuant to the following. The venue of this court is proper in that the plaintiff, Donna McNamara, resides in Norfolk County and the defendant, Town of Stoughton, is located in Norfolk County. Section 3. Parties. Plaintiff Donna McNamara is an adult resident of Sharon and is employed by Town of Stoughton as police chief from the Stoughton Police Department. Defendant, Town of Stoughton, has its principal place of business at 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass. Defendant Thomas Coulter is the town manager for the Town of Stoughton. Section 4, the facts. McNamara has been employed at the Stoughton Police Department for 25 years, holding the ranks of patrol officer, detective, sergeant, patrol supervisor, lieutenant, and shift commander. In all of the above capacities, she boasts an exemplary personnel record. In March 2016, then Stoughton Police Chief Paul Shastani appointed McNamara as acting police chief. Then in April 2026, the Stoughton Select Board acted to appoint McNamara to the position of interim Stoughton Police Chief. In January 2017, the Select Board permanently appointed McNamara as police chief. According to the town charter for Stoughton, the Select Board is the highest executive authority in the town and maintains the exclusive authority to appoint the police chief. McNamara's rise through the ranks to police chief for the town marks the first and only time that a woman has been promoted in the Stoughton Police Department, a fact McNamara takes seriously. At present, there are 10 women employed at the police department, and none of them holds an officer rank. I'm going to say this again. At present, there are 10 women employed at the police department, and none of them hold an officer rank, dispatch, and a few other jobs. McNamara just recently signed her third 3-year contract with the Stoughton Select Board and was contemplating retirement at the end of her contract after 2028, having fulfilled her duties faithfully. In her capacity as the Stoughton Police Chief, she has worked with numerous town managers who were appointed by the Select Board, including Coulter, who became employed by the town in December of 2022. Pursuant to her current employment contract, McNamara may resign from her position at any time, or the Select Board can terminate her employment with or without cause, subject to the process set forth in that document. Let's stop there for a moment. So, all in all here, yes, they could terminate her employment with or without cause, right? They could. But If discrimination is found, McNamara can still sue them for that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they have the right to do that, but there's also other factors that can, okay, you can terminate her, but that doesn't mean she can't sue you. In her role as the head of the Stoughton Police Department, McNamara directs all administrative and operational functions within the Stoughton Police Department, oversees the daily activity of all personnel, supervises the direct investigations of allegations of policeman misconduct and violations of policy and regulations, develops, prepares, and administers the annual budget of the Stoughton Police Department, coordinates the hiring and promotion process for the Stoughton Police Department, though she is not the appointing authority, and serves as spokesperson for the Stoughton Police Department, providing any and all press releases with Interaction News Media. And again, it summarizes. McNamara has an exemplary service record. She has never been disciplined by any of the numerous town managers she served under. So that's a big statement right there. So Coulter's been in since 2022. McNamara has been there for 25 years. And in this time frame, she has never received a negative performance evaluation by a town manager, only this town manager that decides to get rid of her. Why is that? Would it have anything with her talking to the FBI about Sandra Birchmore, or maybe the officers in her department? That seems to be the predominant theory, and also my theory as well. She has never been informed that her performance was unsatisfactory in any way. She has received numerous commendations from the town of Stoughton for service above and beyond the call of duty during her career. She has successfully completed several noteworthy projects, including a complete revamp of the department's evidence processing procedures and a partnership with Stoughton Fire Department to transition to regional public safety dispatch. Now, that's good. She had a great relationship with the fire department, and the fire department also has a major issue with this town manager, as we saw in their report, which we read recently. They had big issues with this town manager as it pertains to the safety of their firefighters and their ability to do their job with the highest level of safety, which is extremely important when you're a police officer, firefighter, or EMT. It's always important that you're well equipped. And from my, especially with my voting history in town elections, I've always voted for new police stations, fire departments, or anything the fire departments and police stations need. And I want to make that clear to anybody who thinks I'm anti-police. I vote for anytime the police or the firefighters or EMTs or whatever are on ballots in my town, I always vote for that, because I always want to make sure that my departments that represent my town are always fully equipped and modernized as much as possible, because that's what, those are three of the most important departments in your entire town. You know, and anybody that's ever had towns with major incidences going on, you always want them fully equipped at all times. So yes, anybody that's ever saying I'm anti-police and the cops won't help me when things happen, don't forget that I made this statement on the show. Again, pro-police, anti-police corruption. So the department's everything, blah, blah, blah. She has presented a reasonable budget to the town each year. That's good. Again, she understands what they need, don't need, things that can pass, you know, probably prioritizing things that are the biggest needs every year. Now, this is interesting. She's a graduate of the FBI National Academy, and she has ensured that the department has achieved and maintained voluntary state accreditation during her time as chief. She also expanded the command staff by adding a second deputy chief's position, ensuring more efficient supervision department-wide. Don't forget that statement, people. I just want you guys to remember this. She also expanded the command staff by adding a second deputy chief's position. Okay, a second deputy chief's position. Don't forget that. Ensuring more efficient supervision department-wide. In short, McNamara has modernized the police department that was stuck in the old ways for many years. That's great. That's a great job. There's a new amended complaint. All right, let me do this. Hopefully my thing don't freeze up here. Thank you, Lori. Actually, Lori, I need you to send that to mazdamedia@yahoo.com. That's where I'm going to need to retrieve it from there. Actually, wait a second. If it's in I'm not able to access X right now. There's been, I don't know, I've been having issues with the website all day. Lori, I'm going to have you re-email that to me if you don't mind as a PDF attachment. Can you email that over to mazdamedia@yahoo.com? I'll put that right on the screen. And Lori, I'm not really checking my my computer right now, the chat right now. You just want to text me after. So two things: email that to me, and then text that to my phone when you've sent it. That way, I'll know right away when it's in there. And I'll just open up my Yahoo email address, unless you already sent it over. Not yet. Okay. Yeah. Just text me to my phone when it's done. Thanks, Lori. Thanks. Appreciate that help greatly. I'm in the PDF page right now. All right. That said, Coulter has made it clear throughout his time in Stoughton as its town manager that he does not believe the police chief's position should be filled by a woman. Okay, that's when you're talking about gender discrimination right there. That's a big statement in terms of, well, why do you think that you're being discriminated against as chief of police? Well, the town manager himself said that he does not believe the police chief position should be filled by a woman. I mean, and then a gender discrimination suit. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's like, why are you filing a gender discrimination suit? Well, the town manager said that he does not believe the police chief position should be filled by a woman. I lost my job. I never had a reasonable investigation. He just got me out of there and threw me away, kicked me to the curb. You know, that's it. You know, I mean, that's the only argument you need. And realistically, before he even probably said that, she probably already knew that. McNamara, it sounds like she's doing a great job as police chief as well. You know, modernizing the department, you know, expanding the department where needed. McNamara's vision for the Stoughton Police Department has been one of integrity, transparency, and service. As you know, she cooperated with the FBI. Coulter has consistently, over the past 4 years, undermined and circumvented McNamara, making it instrumentally more difficult for her to execute this vision. Let's pause for a moment and refer back to the fire department and what the fire department had to say. Did it sound to you that the fire department had been undermined and circumvented, making it instrumentally more difficult for the fire department to execute their vision? Thanks, Lori. You know, those are the facts of this matter. Is you had a fire department get right out there and say, hey, look, this is what's happened here, folks. And this is what's gone down. And this fire department has been persecuted. This fire department has been restricted from having more wiggle room to get things done and all of that. I'm downloading. Thank you, Lori, for sending this so much. Appreciate you helping me out here greatly. And let me get set up here while we transition to the next part. We're going to switch to the amended complaint. All right. Let's get this uploaded. All right, there we are. Let's make sure it's booting the PDF. There we go. Good. All right, I'm going to open this up. All right. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday. All right, just waiting for this to load up here. Might be frozen. I apologize. That should break in a minute or two. Stand by. Stand by. All right. Stand by. Stand by. All right. Let's see, it's not loading up yet. Let me just click it again here. Come on, boot right up. Open right up. Just open. There you go. Not where we want this to open though. Okay, let's get this out of here. Open it up in the wrong browser. All right. Now you're going to open up in the right browser. Now let's hear the right answer. Oh, yep. Caused me tons of problems. Stand by, folks. I apologize for the delay here. Standing by. Okay, almost there. There we go. Open with. Well, you need to start opening the right browser. There we go. That should do it. There we go. Loading up. Yep, load right up. Yep, there you go. Almost there. All right, it's just booting up now. There we go. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, this is good. Let me just make sure the zooms are good on this now. Okay, perfect. All right, now where did I leave off? I left off on page 5. Let's share this tab instead. Lori Mullen, thank you so much. And let's just clean up some things here, and we should be good. All right, we should be good. All right, let's get this out of here. Hide this bar. All right, we're good. And almost there. Stand by for 1 second. All right, there we go. All right, now back down to number 5, page 5. All right. There we go. All right, we should be good. Let me check your screen. See how you guys look. You guys look good. Okay, great. All right, and we are good. All right. Okay, let's do it. Thank you, Lori Mullen. All right, this is now the amended complaint. Lori must have known it because she saw it right there. There we go. Perfect. All right, now, we talked about the vision. We talked about the fire department. There have been multiple instances over the years in which McNamara has held a different opinion from Coulter regarding the Stoughton Police Department operations. And when she expressed such, it has been met with hostility, yelling, and threats. Now, here's my attitude towards all of this. I think as a town manager, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. It's okay to say, well, you know what, Chief, I don't see things your way. I understand some of your arguments, but I don't necessarily think that you're right on this. Like it's fine for the town manager in conversation with the chief to do that. But the problem with this is what she says here, which is when she expresses her opinions, it's met with hostility, yelling, and threats. That's the problem. It's okay to have, especially in a town or wherever you're working, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. But when you're yelling, making threats, being hostile, that's the problem. And when you listen to the people at the select board and what they had to say, they share those sentiments. When you listen to the fire department and their release that they posted publicly, their statement, they share the same ideology about this town manager. This town manager is predominantly seen as a problem. Because I think as town manager, it's okay to have a disagreement. It's okay to disagree, but you want to do that professionally. You want to do that civilly. You want to do that respectfully. For example, Chief, I understand your vision, but with the budget of the town, I don't think we can have that done this year. Maybe we can have this conversation in a year or two down the road. Maybe we can make that possible for you, but just not right. Be professional. You know, when you're going to yell and scream, I disagree. You're going to be out of a job. If I'm telling you right now, if you keep coming to me with this ask, you're out of here. I'm firing you. You're terminated. That's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. You have a seat. Sit down with the chief. Chief Donna McNamara, as town manager, thank you for coming to this meeting today. You wanted to discuss some of the things you see for the town. In closing, you presented me with 5 things. 3 of those I agree with. I think we can get that done for you and your police department to make you guys better and more able to do your jobs in a modern sense. We can absolutely get these approved. The other 2 things you've talked to me today, one of them I'm going to look into. I think it's a solid idea, but I want to learn a little bit more about how we can make that possible for you and your police department. The 5th one, I kind of disagree with you on. For right now, I don't think it fits our budget or our vision. I understand it is your vision, but right now, you know, I don't think that that's going to be how I see the town. Maybe we can revisit that in about a year, 6 months to a year, and talk about it. Maybe we can revisit that. That's kind of how you do it if you're a professional town manager. You'd sit down, you'd hear the town manager out, you'd look over her ideas, you'd go through her list of requests and everything she needed, and review that. And basically agree where you wish to agree, disagree where you wish to agree, or you can maybe say, the 5th thing you've talked about today, I don't really see your vision yet. Maybe we could schedule a meeting in a week or 2, or maybe next month. We can sit down, we can have maybe a isolated meeting on this particular subject. Just present information to me that might, you know, help me more see it your way, or more see the benefits and the features of what you're arguing for or asking for. and we can go over that. We can take a look and see what we can do at the end of the day as town manager. You know, I want the best for the town of Stoughton. I want our town to be in the best possible position. You know, Chief, that I support this town wholeheartedly and all the departments and want everybody to be at their most optimum. But you also know, as town manager, I can't always agree with everything or sign off on everything. It's just unfortunately the way it is, right? But I'm willing to talk with you as much as possible to, you know, try to get on the same page as much as possible, share your vision, see exactly how you see it. That's an effective way to do it. That's an effective way to do it as town manager. That's kind of how you want to present yourself. You know, you want to, again, disagreements can happen, but you want to do it professionally. You want to do it diplomatically. And that's really how things should go in a perfect world, is that way, and not just yelling at people and being inappropriate or hostile or threatening jobs or whatever. That's it, you know. And it looks like I already have my first vote as the new town manager of Stoughton. Absolutely. All right. So continuing here. We talked about that. Okay, there have been numerous instances. There, I heard about, yeah, someone earlier in the chat said something about Kingston. I heard about that as well. There have been numerous instances in which Coulter, I always want to say Carter because Vince Carter, has attempted to interfere with McNamara's police investigations and influence their outcomes. Let's talk about that again. Numerous instances in which Coulter has attempted to interfere with McNamara's police investigations and influence their outcomes. As a town manager, that should never be anything that you're doing, in my opinion. What does a town manager have to do with police investigations and the influencing of their outcomes? That right then and there makes me think two things. This guy is way too overinvested. And number two, to anybody that thinks this guy is working with Michael Morrissey or is a plant or a buddy or a pal with Michael Morrissey and the corruption in Norfolk County, that right there in paragraph 20 should raise a red flag for you, or at least set off some bells and whistles, or at least at the end of the day, be something you look at and say, well, that's a pretty big statement right there. Let me get a glass of water and I'll read the rest of this paragraph. For example, in December 2024 and again in April 2025, Coulter attempted to insert himself into investigations involving complaints filed by Stoughton employees against Stoughton citizens, which McNamara did not permit. I've never heard of employees of a town filing complaints against citizens. I'll be interested in knowing what exactly happened, but it's really none of my business. So McNamara did not allow this. I'd probably see it the other way, where citizens file complaints against Stoughton employees, but that's pretty rare right there. Now, paragraph 21 coming up. When McNamara went against Coulter's choice for a promotion, because of that employee's long history of misconduct, he threatened to cut the police department's legal budget. When McNamara instituted training based on her knowledge of her department's needs, she faced resistance and angry, threatening calls from Coulter, who stated that the department, quote unquote, had enough training. That's a wild paragraph. And it's an argument over a choice for promotion. But when you look at the argument here for McNamara, the reason why she did not want to promote him was because of that employee's long history of misconduct. When you look at other police officers and maybe the Karen Reed saga or Turtleboy saga, a lot of them have lost their jobs. A lot of them have been rehomed. A lot of them are under investigation, right? McNamara, to her credit, is trying to ensure that whoever she promotes has a long history of good conduct and not misconduct. And I think that that's extremely noble. Not only should you be picking the best people for the job, you should be picking the people with the best history of conduct for the higher positions. Someone with a history of misconduct should not be getting promoted over someone perhaps of equal rank that has a history of good conduct or better conduct than that other person. But what does Coulter do? He threatened to cut the police department's legal budget, the entire legal budget, over a choice of promotion. Talk about meddling in police department affairs. That is wild. When McNamara instituted training based on her knowledge of her department's needs, which again is a great thing to do as police chief, you should always ensure that your police officers are trained as much as possible for the betterment of your department as well as the betterment of your town. However, she faced resistance, and angry, threatening calls from Coulter, who stated that the department had, quote unquote, had enough training. I beg the following question. Has Coulter ever been a police officer? McNamara has. McNamara should be able to, like a sports coach, be able to get her team as trained up as possible. Why would you ever say a police department hasn't had enough training? Police department should always be trained and always be getting new training. It's very important. It's not because police officers through and through lack. It's that you always want police officers to be as thoroughly trained as possible so that they can make the best decisions or have the best things that they can do in every situation. Because if they're undertrained, situations can happen, such as, maybe thinking a woman's trying to commit suicide, and then you open fire, hit an air conditioner, and then shoot a fellow officer. So it's always good to make sure police officers are as trained as possible. All right. Coulter has consistently circumvented McNamara's authority during her tenure under him by dealing directly with other male-ranking officers or male police unit presidents on matters related to Stoughton Police Department operations, deliberately sidestepping her in favor of these male, less qualified colleagues. And he's done this consistently, circumventing her authority. If I'm chief of police, I have a problem with that. If you're the chief, you're the chief. That's crazy. The sidestepping has become so pervasive, that McNamara has been forced to instruct at least one of her male colleagues to attempt to alter Coulter's advances. This guy's meddling in this department like crazy. In February 2021, prior to Coulter's arrival in Stoughton, McNamara spearheaded an internal investigation of the Stoughton Police Department, which was conducted by one of her male officers. The officer's report named 3 former Stoughton police officers who had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a young woman named Sandra Birchmore, who started out as an underage member of the Stoughton Police Department, Stoughton Police Explorers Program, and who had been found pregnant, mutilated, and deceased under clearly questionable circumstances in February 2021. One of these officers, Matthew Farwell, has been indicted by a federal grand jury for murdering Sandra Birchmore and her unborn baby, and his trial is upcoming. So, again, McNamara wanted to conduct an internal investigation into this department because, quite frankly, this department wasn't very clean, was it? This department was not very clean, was it? There was a lot going on here. And this Sandra Birchmore thing is one of the most controversial stories in this entire state, is it not? This girl was murdered. And not only that, her murder was said to be a suicide by some officers we all know and love. And you have McNamara, and this is the thing that pisses me off. And I apologize for swearing on my show. I try to keep it down. But there's nothing worse than bad cops. But other than that, there's nothing worse than good cops being shut down from what they're trying to do or stopped from what they're trying to do. Sandra Birchmore was murdered. Her murder was covered up or falsely presented as a suicide. That's chaotic, ladies and gentlemen. Chaotic. And when you have a police chief like McNamara actually trying to do something about it, and she's going through all this stuff, there's a problem there, ladies and gentlemen. There's a major problem there. Something is going on here. Continuing on second paragraph 24, on September 23rd, 2022, McNamara held a press conference and announced the results of the above investigation. She also made the report accessible to the public. In 2024, McNamara initiated a second internal investigation of her police department involving Birchmore. That's great, because at that point, there was a lot more information coming out. There was a lot more going on, and I think a lot more was being found out. And I applaud this chief for being thorough about it. Okay, she conducted one investigation. It yielded certain results. It's like anything. You put 2 coats of wax on Biff Tannen's car, not just one, right? Like Biff said, I told you 2 coats of wax, not just one. You do it twice to be more thorough, right? Because 1 coat of wax may not do it. So 2 will. It's not a bad thing for her to continue to investigate her own department. And I understand that may shake people up in that department or in that town. I get it, but it needs to be done. Sandra Birchmore's murder was a serious situation. A teenage girl was murdered while pregnant. She was a girl. She was pregnant. She was a teenager. I mean, does that not bother? I mean, other than us, does that not bother anybody else? Does that not bother other people besides you, and Chief McNamara? Chief McNamara did the right thing. I'm going to investigate my department a little bit more. Sometimes new information comes out. And the right thing to do is to say, hey, let's investigate this a little bit more. Let's look into that a little bit more deeply. Let's find out what's going on there. You know what I mean? And again, because there could be maybe one more officer that needs to be investigated there. And it pays to do the investigation. It pays to do the job. And Chief McNamara, to me, sounds like she's doing the job. And Coulter, based on what I'm reading here, is trying to stop her from doing a job as thoroughly and without restriction as she possibly can. This is an issue. This is a story I was not expecting when I learned about this last weekend, what was going on with this chief. But I'll tell you, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm like, this is wild. And especially this information and this situation coming up right on the heels of the district attorney election primary coming up. This is a big agitator. You look at Mizzy, the foremost Sandra Birchmore supporter outside of her own family, and this information's coming up. Emily C. showed next Saturday, August 8th, 2 p.m. Emily C. Mizzy, fundraiser for Adam Deitch. I'm going to be on that show for at least a bit, at least an hour, and then I'm going to be reporting numbers on that as well as this continues. But this is wild, ladies and gentlemen. Wild. So, again, the second internal investigation. At the conclusion of this investigation, a report was issued, and on several occasions, Coulter demanded that McNamara destroy it, calling it a quote-unquote hit piece. McNamara refused to violate department policies and protocols. She did not and has not destroyed this report, which greatly displeases Coulter. That tells you a lot, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you out there, water break. For those of you out there that believe that Coulter is affiliated with Michael Morrissey in any way, shape, or form, how do you not look at this and say to yourself, I mean, look, if you're out there, if you're trying to prove your point, do you think this guy's affiliated with Morrissey or Morrissey's pulling this guy's strings? Then you read this kind of stuff. It kind of, makes your point more valid, does it not? And that's a crazy thing to say. McNamara initiated a second internal investigation for Birchmore. Once that was issued, Coulter on several occasions demanded that she destroy it. Not only whatever, just destroy it. Get it out of there. Rid it from existence. Well, that tells me, if I'm a betting man, that in this particular case, there must be something in that investigation, and there must be information out there that maybe McNamara, because the thing about McNamara, she can't, during these investigations, she may not, when you conduct these investigations, which is why she had to do a second one, or felt led to do a second one, is because every investigation that happens, you may not uncover everything. You might uncover some things, but you may learn more things as the future goes on. And you might be compelled to do a second investigation. And even in that second investigation, you may or may not unearth whatever's still out there. But when I look at what I'm reading here, this suggests to me, and I hope it suggests to you, that, and this, as far as I don't, this suggests to me that whatever happened at the conclusion of this investigation, when that report was issued, Coulter demanded she destroyed it. Why? Because there has to be something in that that is threatening to Coulter or threatening to Morrissey that needs to be shut down, that needs to be ridden from existence. In other words, what this tells me is Chief McNamara, cold, warmer, warmer, warm, warm, warmer, hot. You know, she was getting close to something. Whether McNamara knew this or not, whether McNamara had exactly narrowed down whatever it is she was looking for and investigating, I'm convinced reading this that she must have been closing in on something, whether she knew it or not, whether it was something right under her eyes and she had yet to have seen it. But it sounds to me that this second investigation was a serious threat to somebody, because obviously Coulter felt like he had to try to shut this down. But McNamara, being a good, honest cop, refused to violate department policies and protocols. God bless her for that. That's good to see it. She did not and has not destroyed this report, which greatly displeases Coulter. All right, let's get to paragraph 26. This is where a lot of the newer juice is coming out, folks. So in June 2026, during a meeting between McNamara and Coulter regarding Matthew Farwell's upcoming federal murder trial, McNamara put Coulter on notice that she had been this is what I've been saying. I've been sitting here all summer, and I've been saying, I bet you the feds are still out there. They're still out there. They're still out there. They're still out there. The problem with making it larger is that it's cutting off. That's the problem. That's the problem that I'm having. I have an idea. That works. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, good. So what this has done now is, instead of adjusting the zoom level on this file, I've adjusted the zoom level on my browser. Okay, that works. All right, thank you. Yeah, honestly, I wanted to have it a little, this a little bit more visible as well. So that should do it right there. No problem at all. All right, thank you for bringing that up. Yep, that's good. Okay, perfect. All right, that's a lot better now. All right, just up the zoom level on mine. Okay, perfect. Okay, now, okay, so paragraph 26, let's pick up from here. In June 2026, during a meeting between McNamara and Coulter regarding Matthew Farwell's upcoming federal murder trial, McNamara put Coulter on notice that she had been cooperating with the FBI in this case, and that she believes that as a result of the FBI's trial preparation and testimony involving current and also former Stoughton Police Department employees, new misconduct issues may arise necessitating internal affairs investigations of her employees, and that she intends to comply with department policies and protocols and conduct such investigations as necessary. Now, I want to focus in on something here, because we have to think about this from the perspective of the town itself. As a result of this conversation with the feds, right, new misconduct issues may arise, necessitating internal affairs investigations of her employees, right? So the feds may have to, there might be something that goes on that involves internal affairs and those employees. But the key word here, I think that sets off Coulter, is that she intends to comply with department policies and protocols and conduct such investigations as necessary. That's where the biggest threat comes in right there. That's the key sentence in all of this as it pertains to McNamara versus Coulter. She intends to comply. So what would be the best thing? You know, if you didn't want someone like McNamara being a threat to whatever it is that you're threatened by her for, what's the best way to not be threatened by McNamara? Get her out of there. Get a chief of police in there that will not comply with the feds, right? That would be the alternative. Well, get her out of there and get a chief of police in there that will comply. That will not comply with the federal investigation. And that's a huge statement. Scott McGinnis writes, Chief McNamara is bravely attempting to bring her department away from corruption, but maybe she didn't fully realize the level of corruption above her, the DA, the town manager, other people like the attorney general and the governor. Now, I mean, this thing is, I'll say this, it's always bigger than it seems. That's always been my theory. This stuff is always bigger than it seems. It always goes a couple notches higher at minimum. Paragraph 27. On July 6, 2026, Coulter's assistant contacted McNamara by phone to set up an unexpected meeting between her and Coulter for the following day on July 7, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. All right, here we go. Paragraph 28, and this is a big one. On July 7, 2026, Coulter and McNamara met at his office. Now, again, back to 26. In June of 2026, she told him about all of this stuff, right? Then on July 6th, there's contact between Coulter's assistant, McNamara, to set up a meeting immediately for July 7th. Pretty much as soon as you get back from 4th of July. Here we go. There's a meeting set right up. Because there's some concerns here about what McNamara is doing, right? She's complying. She intends to comply with the feds. We need to get her in a meeting. So they do. Right into a meeting. This is the McNamara complaint against Stoughton police, town of Stoughton, and the and Coulter, the town manager. So again, if she's going to comply, you better get her ass out of there, right? Get her out as chief. So on July 7th, Coulter and McNamara met at his office. During this meeting, town council and Coulter informed McNamara that a member of the department had allegedly contacted them directly. So now, this is about accusing her of berating him and causing him stress at work. With no investigation or attempted fact-finding, Coulter informed McNamara that she must resign with dignity or face immediate termination. Now, here's the thing. If they don't have anything on you, because again, her complying with the FBI and their investigation is a threat to the town manager, it appears, right? The threat to the town is McNamara cooperating with the Fed. So if you need to get her out of there, then you better get her out of there by any means possible. So suddenly, not even a month later, this chief of police with no complaints against her whatsoever is who knows how late in June this conversation even took place. I mean, this could have been mid to late June. But in a matter of days or weeks, into July, a meeting's called. And in this meeting, Coulter informs McNamara that a member of the department had allegedly contacted them directly, just reached right out to the town manager's office, right in Coulter's ballpark, accusing her of berating him and causing him stress at work. That just happens to pop up. Because again, if you look at this, berating him and causing him stress at work is all up for debate, right? There could be a conflict. There was no significant conflict. There was no significant reference point where you could say, well, there was an incident that happened on June 12th. You may remember you and a particular officer were having an issue. There was some issues that happened. She's walking into an office completely cold to what's going on and informed that, oh yeah, there was You berated somebody. You might have had a day where you said something and all this, and now, you caused the guy stress. Donna is what you did. You caused him stress. And as a result of this, you're basically, you better resign now or face immediate termination. I'll be back with you guys in just a second here. Stand by, about 5 seconds. This should clear. All right, there we go. So again, they get her out of there. Now, not only do they get her out of there, right? They don't even do an investigation. So it's cut and dry. It's, you berated someone, you caused some stress at work. We're not conducting an investigation. You got two choices. You can resign and keep your dignity. That's trying to scare her off. Or you can face immediate termination, which means if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to scare you off by firing you right away. Either way, you're out of a job and you're done. You're gone. You're no longer chief. All because, you berated someone and you caused them stress at work. Everybody knows a police job is stressful. Okay. Everyone knows that people tend to berate people on the job when something's not done right? It's a stressful job. But just because of this, you must resign with dignity or face immediate termination. But there's no investigation. There's not even an attempt at fact-finding. When did this happen? Which officer did this happen to? Do we know? Could it have been a deputy chief, perhaps? Could have been a deputy chief for all we know. Who was it? Who was it? Was it the deputy chief? Was it somebody else in the department? Was it a lieutenant? Could it have been the lieutenant, a sergeant? Could it have been a detective? Could it have been a patrol officer? Who was it? Who was it? Who made that complaint? Who did that? And why? And why would this be deemed not a resolvable issue? Had there been any further conflict or confrontation between McNamara and this officer at any particular time? We don't know. This complaint, if it even exists, had not been investigated, and it would represent the first formal complaint issued against McNamara during her entire career with the department. And again, this first complaint issued against her during her entire career with the department just happens to happen not even a month after her telling Coulter she's going to cooperate with the FBI as it pertains to their internal investigation. Coulter ended the meeting by informing McNamara that she was not to go to work or into the police station on or off hours without his approval, and that she could use her own accrued time to cover her absence from work, which she has reluctantly done to date. He did not ask for her badge or service weapon and allowed her to drive her cruiser home so that she did not have to walk. That's all like unprecedented stuff. I mean, typically if you're suspended, you're suspended, turn in your badge, you're gone. You got to get a ride home. You got to, call Uber or something, call Lyft. Maybe put her on like paid administrative leave, but you're making her use her own accrued time to cover her absence from work. This is wild. McNamara, and also they should retroactively give her back the town itself. The select board itself should order the reinstatement of all accrued time she used to cover her absence from work. And that should be replaced with paid leave in their system. So what they should do is transfer all the accrued time that she used to cover her absence from work and transfer that over to paid leave in the system. That would restore her accrued time once she returns to work. That's what should end up happening there. And again, she leaves with her badge, service weapon, and allowed her to drive, but basically don't show up at the police station. McNamara left this meeting in a state of confusion. She has served the town of Stoughton for over 25 years. I'm telling you right now, this select board can never allow this town manager to return to work. This is crazy. She left this meeting in a state of confusion. She has served the town of Stoughton for over 25 years and takes great pride in rising through the ranks to become police chief. McNamara has been forced to call in sick each day since she has been scheduled since July 7th, 2026, because again, she could be terminated if she doesn't call in sick. Coulter scheduled a follow-up meeting with McNamara to occur on July 9th, 2026 for the purpose of discussing McNamara's decision. However, on July 8th, this meeting was postponed and not rescheduled. That's very, very alarming. It's almost like they trying to get her to whatever. We'll continue. After that meeting, which occurred exactly 1 year after she signed her third contract as chief, in early July 2026, coworkers, friends, and family members began to report to McNamara that they were hearing rumors that she was never coming back and was fired. This was all news to her. McNamara called in sick to work on July 8th and July 9th. When she called in sick on July 9th, McNamara spoke to a department employee who informed her that Coulter had told him about the discussion she had with Coulter on July 7th, and that Coulter told him Donna will not be coming back to work. This is crazy. On July 10, 2026, when McNamara called in sick to work, she spoke to a department employee who informed her that Coulter had come to the police station for a meeting with all of the male commanders. During this meeting, Coulter told them that Donna was on sick leave for the next week and that she will not be coming back to the station ever. Wow, so she's on sick leave and will not be coming back to the station ever. She was also informed by this employee that Coulter had reported to them that he had retained a consultant, had retained a consultant to begin a hiring process for a new police chief, even though she hadn't been terminated yet. This is so unorthodox. On July 13, 2026, Coulter called and texted McNamara on her cell phone, imploring her to resign. So this guy, right now, he doesn't want to terminate her at all because he doesn't want to deal with that. So what he's trying to do here is basically bait her into a resignation. Are you quitting? Are you quitting yet? Are you quitting? Are you feeling the pressure? Quit. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to force her into quitting. Coulter was aware at this time of this contact that McNamara had retained legal counsel. However, he did not care. She did not answer or return these messages. Later that same day, this is crazy, but this town manager's got to go. Later that same day, by 8:50 p.m., text message, Coulter confirmed his position that McNamara was prohibited from returning to work or entering the police station on or off hours without his approval. What was he going to do if she did, though? What was he going to do if she did? And that she was to continue using her accrued leave, which he stated he was letting her do as a favor to her. Give me a break. On or about July 15, 2026, McNamara, through the undersigned counsel, informed Coulter that she refused to resign and was demanding to return to work. Great move. On July 14th, the day before, it's on or about July 15th. On July 14th, Coulter again called McNamara on her cell phone. She did not answer. This is so inappropriate. On July 14th, Coulter accused McNamara of going to the police station in violation of his orders. I hope you have that on camera, pal. And instructed department personnel to search the station's cameras. So there you go. And key card system, which they did. And the search that, as expected, and the search confirmed that McNamara had in fact not been in the police station. Well, there you have it. Search the police station now. On July 14th, the Stoughton Police Select Board met and, upon information and belief, took no actions as to McNamara. On July 16th, the department employee contacted McNamara to inform her that Coulter was continuing to talk disparagingly about her both inside and outside of the police station. She was informed that Coulter had contacted both police unions and told them, quote unquote, I don't know who the next chief will be, but it won't be a woman. She was also informed that Coulter had told department personnel that McNamara had until Friday, July 17th. So she had 3 different deadlines. He keeps extending it. So she had till July 17th to now decide whether to resign, which, as detailed above, was not true because her decision to decline to resign had already been communicated to Coulter on or about July 15th. On July 17th, McNamara, through the undersigned counsel, made a written demand to the town that she be permitted to work, return to work. Wow. On the same date, town council informed McNamara that unless she wow. Wow. On the same date, town council informed McNamara that unless she agreed to resign, the town intended to place her on administrative leave and commence an investigation. However, neither has occurred to date. Well, I got news for you. If they wanted to investigate this, go for it, because that would be probably great if they would investigate something, because you'll find out that McNamara is basically being railroaded here. On the same date, I'm going to repeat this. On the same date, town council informed McNamara that unless she agreed to resign, the town intended to place her on administrative leave. Wasn't she already on sick leave? And commence. Actually, it'd be great if you placed her on administrative leave, because that's probably what Coulter should have been doing in the first place if he had such a problem with her. And an investigation should have been commenced, because something needs to be looked at as to what's going on in this town. What's the issue here? Why is McNamara on leave? Why is she being told to take sick time? Why is the town manager being unorthodox in his approach to this? Shouldn't she have been placed on town administrative leave, paid administrative leave from the beginning for the time being? But he was unorthodox about it. And then town council wants to inform her that unless she agreed to resign, the town intended to place her on administrative leave and commence an investigation like that's some kind of a threat? Give me a break. Administrative leave would be better than using your sick time, and an investigation would be wonderful. Because if you do investigate McNamara, you're going to see that Coulter was the problem the entire time. And neither has occurred to date, because it was all apparently a bluff. Wow. I have not read this through yet, and this is just wild. Oh my goodness gracious. It's more than bullying. It's far more insidious and evil than that. Truly, McNamara's own life could be in danger. This is crazy. This is wild stuff, but not stuff I have not come to expect. When you've seen what's going on in North Andover, when you've seen what's going on in Canton, this kind of behavior is not unexpected. On Monday, July 20th, McNamara filed a formal harassment complaint with the select board against Coulter. Amen to that. Alleging that he had been engaging in a pattern of gossip and disparagement against McNamara, while also calling and texting her cell phone virtually every day for the prior 2 weeks. On July 20th, 2026, the Stoughton Select Board met and took no action as to McNamara's employment. On July 21st, McNamara lost access to her work email address. On July 22nd, McNamara learned through the media that another Stoughton Police Department employee, Deputy Chief O'Connor, had been appointed acting police chief of the Stoughton Police Department. The media provided no details on who in the town made this appointment, or even when and where the decision was made. Wow. That same day, a member of the department contacted McNamara and informed her of a department-wide email Coulter had sent, suggesting that she had voluntarily stepped down from her position, which was untrue. This guy is a piece of art, huh? Piece of work. Also on that same day, McNamara, through undersigned counsel, questioned the town in writing regarding the lawfulness of the appointment referenced above, and made a second demand to return to work. Town council replied in writing stating, select board meeting is scheduled to be held tomorrow on this matter, and that he will be in touch following that meeting. Continuing here. On July 23rd, the Stoughton Select Board met and took no action as to McNamara's employment, her complaint against Coulter, or the appointment of the acting police chief referenced above. To date, the town has not issued charges against McNamara, commenced an investigation into her conduct. I'm going to start this over again because I got to read it twice because it's just incredible. To date, the town has not issued charges against McNamara. Let's be clear about that. They have not commenced an investigation into her conduct or placed her on administrative leave. That's obviously now changed. Nevertheless, the town continues to prevent McNamara from performing the position to which she is contractually entitled and required without providing her with any process or explanation for its actions. Upon information and belief, no prior male Stoughton police chief has ever been terminated for a single instance of causing stress to subordinate. The town has caused and is continuing to cause McNamara severe emotional distress, and Coulter's ongoing smear campaign against her is affecting her reputation, which in turn may affect her ability to resume her duties effectively. The plaintiff hereby incorporates by reference paragraphs 6 to 53 of the complaint and sets them forth herein. The defendants are ignoring their obligations under their employment agreement with plaintiff and are prohibiting her from performing the job to which she is contractually entitled as Stoughton Police Chief, or in the alternative, are failing to provide her with any explanation or process for their actions as required under the agreement. As a direct, proximate, and foreseeable result of the defendant's material breach of their agreement, the plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer damages, including but not limited to irreparable harm to her reputation, as well as lost wages and benefits. And believe me, if she ever sues them, I'm sure she'll sue. If that lawsuit ever comes to it, to the point where there's damages, she's going to be collecting every damage imaginable plus whatever else. Count number 2. An actual controversy exists between the parties in that the defendants have violated their employment agreement with plaintiff by ignoring their obligations under it and prohibiting her from performing the job that she is contractually entitled to and required to do, or in the alternative, by failing to provide her with any explanation or process for their actions as required under the agreement. A binding declaration of the parties' rights, terms, and obligations under this employment agreement is necessary to settle the existing controversy. Count 3. The plaintiff hereby incorporates, by reference, paragraphs 6 through 53 of the complaint and sets them forth herein. The defendants have engaged in retaliation against the plaintiff because of her participation with the FBI in their upcoming murder trial related to a former Stoughton police officer who had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a young woman named Sandra Birchmore, who started out, as you know, as a member of the Explorers program, and who had been found pregnant and all that under clearly questionable circumstances in February 21. The defendants have further engaged in retaliation against the plaintiff because of her refusal of Coulter's demands that she destroy an investigation report done involving Sandra Birchmore. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, McNamara requests that this court enter judgment in her favor. Defendants are to comply with their employment agreement with the plaintiff. Plaintiff is awarded a reasonable attorney fees and costs. All other relief which the court deems to be within the interest of justice. Plaintiff demands a trial by jury. All right. That's dated July 30th. I'm gonna see what I just want to see what additional information. This is the amended version, so I just want to see if there's any. I'm just gonna zip through some of this and just see if there's any additional information here that I think is relevant to what I'd like to discuss today. All right, that will do it for that portion. All right, so that's it for the McNamara story for today. We're gonna move on to North Andover now. We're gonna talk about what's going on over there. So that story is just wild. Wow. Whew. Wow, that was a read, huh? That was a read. It's always I didn't get a chance to read through that whole thing. But I wanted to read those paragraphs over. That's crazy. This is wild, man. It's crazy what goes on in the state. It really is. What's going on with McNamara shouldn't happen. That's just outrageous. It's good to see the support out there, though, for the people in that town. Wow. Whew. Let's refill the cup here. Refill the collection, the taillight collection cup. Today's seltzer water is polar, and it is pink apple and lemon is the flavor of the day here. Today's episode of Mazda Media is brought to you by Polar, pink apple, and lemon. All right, there we go. All right, so we're good there. And then let's talk about Noonan. All right, and Justin Alain. So Justin Alain is back on the job. And Patrick Noonan's back on the job in Canton. All right, so Fox News broke this article on July 29th. The ex-fiance of Kelsey Fitzsimmons is back to work following a personnel investigation. What were the findings of that investigation? And the North Andover police officer who shot her is also on active duty, according to the town of North Andover. Justin was placed on administrative leave from the North Andover Fire Department in March. Fitzsimmons, who was shot by a North Andover police officer while being served a restraining order filed by Justin at her home on June 25th, was found not guilty of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon in March following a 4-day bench trial in Lawrence. Would you like to read more? Yes, I would. Prior to the start of the trial, video surfaced of aliens smoking what appeared to be a doobie-doobie-doo, a marijuana pipe or bong behind the house and outside a window months before the shooting. Alain allegedly also broke into her home 3 days after the shooting. What's ever happened to that, huh? Allegedly also broke into her home 3 days after the shooting on July 3rd. That's because the cops have played. So just go right on. After the shooting on July 3rd, 2025, along with several other men, we should note that several of those other men were members of the North Andover Fire Department, which is believed. At the time, her defense team asked the North Andover Fire Department to turn over disciplinary records related to her former fiance's alleged drug use. Quote unquote, the town of North Andover can confirm that the firefighter Justin Alain, spokesperson for the town of North Andover. Now, what were the findings of that, I ask? What are the findings of that? What did they determine? Who was the third party investigator? These are the things I ask. That's what I want to know. If he was suspended in the first place, then why was he cleared? We know why he was suspended. Why was he cleared? Give me information on that. Who conducted the third party investigation? Who was that? Who conducted that? The investigation determined that there was insufficient evidence that firefighter Alain violated any town policies. Since this is a personnel matter, no information will be provided. So you wonder, if let's put it this way. The investigation determined that there was insufficient evidence that he had violated any town policies. However, and I'm countering this to this statement by the town, why was he suspended in the first place then? In other words, if those videos that were provided by the expert security member, Steve Fitzsimmons, to the town, and the town decided to suspend him over that, why was there a need to suspend him over drug use? If drug use is not a violation of town policies, right? They suspended him, put him on what, unpaid administrative leave. I don't think he made any money through that. Had to get paid throughout that time frame. So if that's the case, then if the video was sufficient to warrant an unpaid suspension, unpaid leave, or whatever it was, then why was nothing found, for example? If for example, if you look at they see the videos, they say, oh my God, we got to suspend this guy because these are videos of him using drugs or doing things that would basically be what we would perceive to be as a violation of the department. Then how would the investigation not match why they initially determined that he needed to be suspended in the first place? Why would there not be, say, for example, well, yeah, he's clearly using drugs. So what I'm saying is one of these things is not like the other. If there's a need to suspend him for alleged drug use or believed drug use, then why would that third-party investigation turn up not only whether or not it determined drug use or not? Why would it determine that there's no violation of the department policy when most people were aware, as we've seen documented on the internet, that using drugs like that would have been a violation, right? Did they, if he was under the influence of marijuana or whatever, and that's a violation of department policy, and there's numerous videos that are date stamped, I presume, would that not be sufficient evidence by the third-party investigator to determine that he had been maybe perhaps under the influence of marijuana while he was active duty for the town of North Andover's fire department? Those are the questions that I asked. These are the things that I wondered. But it just, again, I don't think that their investigation, if they felt the need or compelled to suspend him, I find it hard to believe that their investigation would turn up insufficiently, is what I'm trying to argue here. If in fact drug use was grounds for a suspension and an investigation in the first place, and the town has a known policy. So I just find these findings insufficient. I almost feel as if, I hate to say this about the town, but I almost feel like as if this town had just basically given him a super top secret suspension, public facing, and then basically at some point we're just going to say, yeah, we investigated, yeah, he's back to work, leave us alone, don't talk about it anymore. And the reason why I think that is because Uncle Noon also got to return to work the same day. The town also confirmed that Officer Patrick Noonan, the North Andover officer who shot Fitzsimmons, is on active duty. So him and Justin both get back to work at the same exact time, right? Same exact time. It's back to work, back to work. These suspensions or whatever are done. You're both back to work. That tells me, in my opinion, because Noonan's situation and Justin's situation do not adhere under normal circumstances to the same exact timeline. Justin's being investigated, right, by a alleged third-party investigative team or investigator. Noonan is dealing with what he's dealing with because of what had happened a year ago. But yet at the same time, both these gentlemen, or lack thereof gentlemen, both these individuals are reinstated the same exact day. I find that a little bit, I don't know. That's very intriguing to me. I'll just say it that way. Lori Mullen, one of the foremost authorities on covering the Kelsey story, says Massachusetts prohibits all smoking for firefighters, regardless of what you may be smoking. So you could take literal grass off your lawn and smoke that, and that would be considered a violation. It's crazy. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, it doesn't make sense to me that they'd both be reinstated the same day. You think that would happen uniquely and independent of the other. Yet it's just back to work, back to work. I find that hard to believe. Considering one of them was under investigation, Noonan had his own separate matters. I just find that very much like inconsistent. So Noonan testified during the trial that Fitzsimmons pulled a gun at my face, quote unquote, pulled a gun at my face and pulled the trigger while he was upstairs with her as she packed belongings for the baby while he was serving the restraining order. Well, I got news for you. If Noonan ever pulls somebody over in the town of North Andover and he asks for a license and registration, and he jumps the gun, no pun intended, that they're pulling a firearm or something and shoots somebody during a routine traffic stop. That will tell you everything you need to know about what happened with Kelsey Fitzsimmons. I think that, you know, I think that this is a situation where Kelsey was telling the truth. I thought that Noonan was outperformed by Kelsey Fitzsimmons on the stand, quite frankly. I think that was clear to anybody. I looked at Noonan and his testimony, and he was not very introspective on the stand. It was, she tried to shoot me. You know, it's like the guy in Dirty Harry. You tried to kill me. You know, it's like that. You know, he was very like, well, she tried to kill me. I was trying to defend myself. I walked in the door. I was like, oh my God, I better shoot her. You know, like that. It was very much well, I did what I did because this is the situation I faced. There was no introspective moment like, hey, you were walking out of the room for a minute there. What's up with that? Is there anything about this you wish you had done differently? No, it was, she pulled a gun. I acted in self-defense. That's it. That's the argument. That's all there is to it. That's it. That's the whole game. That was Noonan's whole presentation in court. That's his story, and he's sticking to it, as Colin Quinn used to say on Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live 26 years ago. That was his story. She tried to shoot me, and I shot her. That was it. That's his whole story. Nothing about, hey, why did you miss the first shot? Why did you hit the air conditioner first? Were you panicking? Were you whatever? Kelsey's story was on the stand Kelsey was fantastic. She was well prepped, but again, when you have the truth on your side, very easy to tell the truth. It's very easy to tell your story. There's no holes in your stories. There's no inconsistencies in your stories. And Kelsey was fantastic on that stand. She got up there and she said, look, look, there was areas in which I screwed up. I wanted to commit suicide. These are the reasons why I wanted to commit suicide. I was having postpartum depression. I wasn't myself. I wish I hadn't done something so stupid and been so foolish as to try to commit suicide. I wish whatever, I wish whatever. Wait a second. Did he? I don't know if he ever looked at me. I don't recall him ever looking at me. Did you see him looking at me? That's funny. I'll tell you right now, I'm never showing my face in North Andover. I'll tell you, I'm not going to North Andover ever. I want to go to Joe's Fish in North Andover for a lobster roll, but you're never going to see me in North Andover, at least not for the next 15 years. Maybe when they have like 15 years from now, they have a whole different crew of cops. I'd be like, okay, I'll go back in that town, but I'm not going in that town. And all of a sudden, hey, that Mazda guy just pulled into North Andover. Pull him over. License and registration, please. Hello, officers. What's the reason for pulling me over? Oh, well, you were going an 85 and a 22. Well, that's funny. I was going about 25 and a 22, but here's my license and registration. A ticket for going 80 miles over. No, I was kidding. But, you just don't, like I said, I'm not taking that risk. People say, Mazda's a coward. Yes. Yes, that's correct. I'm not going in that town. I get pulled over. I'll be like, boo. It's like, we just, we got, I'll walk into Joe's Fish and I'm going to have to get my Joe's Fish order to go, or actually I'm going to have to send somebody else into Joe's Fish to get me a lobster roll. Okay. Weeks after a couple weeks ago, I'm on the computer and I start getting lobster roll ads. And one of them was for Joe Fish. And I'm like, whoa, that lobster roll looks crazy good. Where is this? I'm going there. Google the address. Comes up on my screen. Joe's Fish, North Andover, Massachusetts. Cripe? North Andover. I'm like, ugh. I'll be in there. And somebody will be in there and be like, that's that Mazda Media guy right there eating the lobster roll. Hey, the Mazda guy's in town. Okay. All right. We'll have one of our patrolmen in the area. You just let us know what car he's going into. Hey, Mazda just went into the vehicle. He's on his way. Right. Okay. All right. as it pulls out of the parking lot. Boo! Gets pulled over. License and registration, please. Hello, officer. Can't imagine what this is all about. How can I help you today? I get like a $250, $400 ticket. Have to appeal it. But those are thoughts in my imagination before I walk in. I don't think that would, I mean, I'll put it this way. I can't guarantee that would happen. I doubt that would happen, but we'll play safe here. We'll play safe. We're just gonna stay clear of North Andover for a while. Yeah, it's crazy. But I was reflecting yesterday. This is kind of when I thought last night that I wanted to talk about Noonan. I was just thinking back yesterday to trial and just all the cops that were there. They had the cops. So on the second level of the court, you walk in the front steps, you go through security, you go up and over. Now you're almost in a gallery. And when you're there, you stand around and you wait to get in the court. So the cops all show up, and they show up. These guys show up in droves. They're all in their suits. You can tell they're very much a collective individual of guys. So I get there very early. I had a long drive, so I get up really early. I think it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. I got up. I think it was probably 6 a.m. I think it was 5 a.m. I got up. I had 3 hours of sleep. 3 hours. That's all I got. I was so excited and amped up for the trial the next day that I could not fall asleep. And got 3 hours of sleep. My alarm went off, I think, at 5. Got up, showered, ate, got dressed, got in the vehicle, wanted to beat traffic, did it, traveled in darkness. It was dark out in the morning, driving on the highway all the way up. And it was just a wildly long trip. I think I was up there, and I got there so early that the town was just kind of, you could tell, was waking up for the morning. And I'm standing outside the front steps. I walk around the court like, is this the right door? Because I'd never been there before. And all of a sudden, like 20 guys in suits come out of nowhere. They're walking. It's like the intro to Reservoir Dogs. Do, 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 do. They're all walking. They come around. They come out of the corner out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it's just me and about 12 guys, maybe 12 to 15, 10 to 15, maybe somewhere in there. And they're all standing there. They're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, God, very good. Good to see you. And I'm thinking, are these the North Andover police officers? And do these guys know anything about Mazda Media and the $42,000 in funds I had raised at the time? Now, $60,000. Are they aware of this at all? So they look at me. I mean, for all I know, they think I'm, just somebody there going to court for the day. Maybe I had some business there. I don't know. But there's no tension at all. Like there's no tension. It's just me and these police officers for probably about a solid 10 to 15 minutes. And I'm just sitting up against the wall at the door. These guys give me no dirty looks. They give me no hard time. They give me no hassle. Occasionally they kind of look over. They're kind of cool with me. Like I'm thinking to myself, these guys have no clue who I am. So they're not even sure who I am at all, because if they knew, they would know. They'd be like, "This asshole, son of a bitch that raises all of it." But there was nothing like that. There was honestly, no tension, nothing. I stood there. Everything was cool. I didn't give them a dirty look, because I wasn't even sure if they were the cops. So from North Andover. So everything was kosher for about that 10 to 15 minutes. Eventually, one sec. I'll keep talking. Common sense investigator and a couple other ladies show up. And I think it's Lauren that tells me, she's like, "Do you know who those guys are?" "No, who are they?" "The North Andover Police Department." "Oh, okay." So then I'm like, oh, okay. I've been standing there with the North Andover cops, which I was kind of like that. I was fairly sure it was them. I didn't know if there was any other court cases that were going on that morning, but it was me and them. Everything, like I said, everything was fine. There was no issues. And then I think Lauren was the one that told me. I mean, it was another lady. I forget. I think it was Lauren. It was Lauren. Lauren came over and told me, I think. And then after that, Noon, all this cheering kind of starts, and Noon walks over like he's their old bro. He's holding his wife's hand. He's walking like this, and he comes over, And they're like, Noonan, they're all like buddies, and there's all hugs and kisses. In the meantime, Jess Machado, who's there, is wandering around the back, and she's recording the whole thing. And everyone's kind of like watching this whole thing take place. And at that point, more people started showing up that were Kelsey supporters, and it just turned into a whole giant intermixing of Kelsey supporters and Noonan supporters, and all that stuff. So it was like it started to get really uncomfortable, really, really quick. Then Kelsey's dad shows up, and Kelsey's dad, not to be trifled with, he shows up and he gets right in the front of the door, and he turns around and looks, and those cops are all trying to be cool with him. He's like, nah. He's like, I'm not cool with you guys at all. And he's all just, you can tell Steve is fired up, as any father would be. Then he introduced himself to me and says, oh my goodness, Maz, nice to meet you. We kind of did the bro hug, pats on the back, all that stuff. And then the cops start looking at me a little bit, especially the cops that had been there that entire morning. All of a sudden, like, one of the guys I had been coolest with looks at me. Oh, really? Because he sees Steve and me explaining, kind of exchanging greetings in a brotherly, bros kind of way. And you can tell the guy, they kind of looked at me and they're like, oh, wow, that tall SOB was a Kelsey supporter the whole time. Not only that, but he's in good with Kelsey's dad. Yes, that's true. And I kind of smirked because at that point it was like, at that point it didn't matter. So, but it was just like, it would have been awkward if going back to when I first got there that morning, if it was just me and those cops for like 10 to 15 minutes, that would have been really awkward. But it was kind of like that silent, like, unknown for those 10 to 15 minutes. Then, like I said, once Steve showed up and greeted me, those cops, they were cool with me one more time after that. And that's when the door opened and they said, hey, you were here first, you can go in first. So that was the only time, that was the last time I had any kind of pleasantries with the North Andover Police Department. And again, not that there was ever any, there was only one incident I had, and I'll talk about that in a second. So we went in, we all got into court. The morning happened. The final closing arguments were happening. And let me see what you got, Mary B, for me. 1 second to check. So they had the closing arguments that morning. And I just saw a beach picture of Yuri. Oh yeah, I've seen that one before. Yeah, I've seen that before, Mary B. That's funny. I remember that one being made. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, good. Yeah. So I went in, they had the closing arguments. And then after closing arguments, I had just met Lori for the first time that morning. Lori Mullen was here. And I just met Romney. I met Rami that day. Rami was there. I met her. And I got to meet Rami. I got to meet Lori Mullen. I got to meet Lauren Common Sense Investigator. I got to meet KY Maverick, Joe, all for the first time. Audrey Elliott was there from North Andover, and all of that stuff. And it was just funny. It was just like funny in a way just to meet people I had been talking to so much. Lori, Lauren, KY Maverick, Audrey Elliott, who I had been posting the North Andover Select Board. So it was just kind of cool to meet people. Scott McGinnis was there, obviously. Scott McGinnis held it down outside all day. That was great. Scott's always there. Joe had an update yesterday, but it was so late at night when I saw it that I was just literally getting ready to go to bed. But I don't have the latest updates on Joe off the top of my head right now. But I know he did post some stuff last night or yesterday, but I haven't read it. But getting back to court after the closing arguments, I got stopped by Courtney Healy. Courtney Healy happened to stop me on the way out, and we talked briefly. And then I turned and looked, and Kelsey was looking at me. Kelsey came over and greeted me. for the first time. So I got to meet Kelsey Fitzsimmons, which was great. Great to meet them. Kelsey was very grateful, obviously, appreciated that from her. But, again, we're trying to do this for her. But again, it's good to have, through things like this, it's good to have positive things that can happen, such as fundraising, all that stuff. And Kelsey was very happy for the support. The family was very happy for the support. And it was a great, victorious day as coming back. A lot of us stayed in the gallery. I met me and Steve talked a bit. Me and William Page talked a bit. Bettero was there. I met Emily C for the first time that afternoon. It was a really cool day. It was an awkward in the sense that like we had talked about it, just like we're all out here like we're waiting for a funeral, or we're at some kind of almost like I felt like a funeral atmosphere because it was a trial. It was just like I felt like a family gathering during a funeral. Some people were describing. It's just weird. Like we're all waiting to go back in. And then before we went back in, we had learned that the verdict was coming in. So we all gathered at the door, and a lot of us didn't eat any lunch. And all the cops were upstairs. There was the top floor, and they were all in like this conference room up there. So we are waiting. A lot of us start to get in, and I'm messaging Melanie Little's group chat because Melanie Little's reporting on updates. I'm literally in the chat, like it's starting at this time or whatever, and letting Melanie in the chat know exactly what I'm hearing inside the court, because there was an initial time, but then it got pushed back like an hour, I think, an hour, 30 minutes or an hour later. So at this point, we all stopped our casual talking and all lined up outside the door. And then from the top room, all the cops came down, and it was Noonan and every other cop. A lot of the cops that day that kind of had the bigger presence around Noonan, and then some that had gathered. So I'm standing there, and we're all kind of casually there and waiting, and it's a little tense because you're intermixed. Like there's cops to the right of me, thing says jokers to the left of me, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you. Bob Dylan from Reservoir Dogs. It's my second Reservoir Dogs reference of the show, if you're keeping track. So I'm standing there, and there's cops next to me, there's cops whatever, and all of a sudden I look to my left, and there's this lady. I think she's a cop, or she's at least affiliated with the police department, or maybe she's somebody's wife. She's looking at me like this. I mean, she's obviously staring at me. She's like that. And I'm like, really? So when people give me dirty looks, I just look back at them with a blank face and just look at them until they say something or stop. And so I look back at her, and she goes, finally, like that. So I'm like, okay, like, don't stare at me, please. It's just like, because it's just like, what? I don't like to be stared at like that. And here's the thing. I'm not telling you guys you can't support Noonan, right? I've never told people that don't support Kelsey, people that don't support Karen Reed or Turtleboy, I've never told people what they can and cannot do. If you don't like Karen, Kelsey, Turtleboy, or you don't care about the Stranger Bird, fine, that's your right. I don't tell you what to do, but don't tell me what to do. Don't mean mug me. And she's, but it was just like, what the hell? But you come to be expected. That was the only incident or minor occurrence that happened that entire day. I had no complaints about the North Andover cops other than they tried to kind of really maul the door. So they kind of let the cops in. And then Steve Fitzsimmons just started saying certain people were family, could go in. It's like, go in, all that stuff. And it was, Steelers Wheelers, not Bob Dylan. Okay. Stuck in the middle with you. Okay. That was the song. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am stuck in the middle with you. All right. But yeah, that was pretty much what went on that day. But like I said, there was not too many, there was really not any incidents. I think everyone just kind of knew you're in court, you're in a courthouse, you got cops, you got Kelsey supporters, you got family of Kelsey, you got all that. And everybody just kind of kept it, neutralized, except for that woman that was giving me a dirty look. It was like that. But I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. And then I'm sitting there and I get in, and I kind of took my time getting in the courtroom and got in and got a seat next to Lauren, common sense investigator, which was right near Noonan, Officer Noonan, who just got reinstated. And Romney, you're over there, like a couple seats to me. Lori's like down in the middle somewhere over there. And we're all kind of all over the place, intermixed with cops. You know, it's like there's cops. It's like, you know, we're all intermixed. And, you know, I'm just like, me and Lauren are sitting there and we're just like, me and Lauren are making small talk. This is going to be not good. Absolutely not good. So we're like all kind of confident. Me and Lauren were very confident. And, yeah, I looked at Noonan quite a bit, you know, and that was not to be, you know, to look at him and whatever reason. It was just like, I knew that I wanted to see like the temperature of him, like how he was reacting. I'll tell you, the guy was very stoic. Very stoic. Like even in the moments that were untelevised, the non-camera moments, I mean, the guy was just standing there, sitting there like that. Him and his wife were holding hands. That was the only thing I really observed. Him and his wife were holding hands, which is interesting because there's really nothing at stake for him. You know, it was really all Kelsey at that point. Even if she's not guilty, I mean, he walks out the door. If she's guilty, if he's guilty, she walks out the door. If she's not guilty, he walks out the door. You know what I'm saying? Like there's really nothing at stake for Noonan, you know, in my particular opinion, unless maybe it pertains to him, you know, being disciplined by the police department or whatever. But really the judge kind of determined, well, it was kind of an incident that happened. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances and you know, the case is dismissed. Kelsey's not guilty. Game over. But yeah, he's holding hands with his wife. They were having like the, you know, the, wife supports the husband supports his wife type deal going. And he was just statuesque. Like there was like this guy was like your typical cop, no emotion, no reactions, no like tenseness. It was just, like I said, just very, very statuesque. Exactly what you saw on camera for like a 20-minute wait while we were waiting for the judge to come in. And then the verdict happened and I smirked because I just knew that was going to be the verdict the whole time. And basically this entire trial was a total waste of time. And that these charges against Kelsey were totally ridiculous. And those are my thoughts. I'm like, this is just like, you know, because I'm also thinking all the people that are trolls online are trying to tell me she's guilty. And I'm like, just what I thought. That's why you kind of see me smirking on camera, is because I'm like I told you it was going to be not guilty. I told you this was a waste of time. And, you know, it's like what I thought. You know, I knew that there was going to be no other way. KY Maverick's in the house. KY Maverick is upset because he wishes Noonan didn't look so much like Santa Claus, and that Santa Claus should sue. Those are KY Maverick's thoughts. So, other than that, you know, it was a unique experience. It was great meeting the people. It was great to be there for Kelsey. And again, me and Betero, I had debated like what days I was going to take off. Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, maybe Wednesday and Friday, you know, and finally I just said, you know what? They're projecting the verdict to come on Wednesday, but these things are always late. Let's do Thursday. So I decided to do Thursday and Friday. I said, if for whatever reason this thing ends on Wednesday, then I guess I'm going to have to miss it. I took the chance. I go, because what I want to do is have Thursday off, and then I'll have Friday off for one or two things, relaxing or coming back. And I was praying the verdict would just come in when I was there on Thursday, and it was done. And Friday, I could just sleep in it because I was exhausted the next day. But that's what happened. So I, we got to see the verdict. And then I chauffeured Mark Betero to Kowloon's for dinner. And then a few other Kelsey supporters, including Lauren, Common Sense Investigator, came out for that, which was an awesome dinner at Kowloon's. Bettero's like, you giving me a ride to Kowloon's? I go, you bet. And I'll tell you, when I drove Betero, I was driving that guy like he was the president of the United States. I was like, speed limit the entire time, looking an extra time or two before I pulled out a stop, you know, four-way intersections. I drove Betero like he was the president. Okay. It was like, this is Mark Betero. All right. This guy is, covering, defending Turtleboy, all this stuff. I'm like, this is gonna be the safest driving. I always drive safe, but this is like even more. This is extreme safe driving the whole way. Speed limit, all that stuff. Just had to make sure Betero was protected. Bettero's the greatest. Love that man. And had a great lunch. We met up with Lauren Common Sense Investigator and a few other ladies. Oh, you were, Romney? That's funny. Yeah. And the parking in that parking lot was expensive. It was like $20, you know? Yeah. And exactly. Like, I'm not going to be driving Mark Bettero to Kowloon's and all of a sudden, like, there's news of like an accident. I'm protecting Mark Bettero at all costs. This will be like driving my parents or driving my grandfathers or grandmother, you know, or driving people like that. You know, you gotta, it's high, extreme safe driving that day. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was fun. We hung out there, and Bettero loves Kowloon's, and we had chicken wings. We started off with chicken wings, which was great. Had to have the chicken wings to celebrate. So there were celebration chicken wings in order that day. And then we all just got our individual meals, which was great. And it was a great time. It was a great little celebration over at Kowloon's that day. What better way to celebrate? And just great people there. And I think one of the women was actually from out of state that had been joining us. And Lauren was out of state, obviously, but another woman I think was out of state. And oh, that's good. Oh boy. Yeah, it was like $20, $25. I'm like, in a small town too. I mean, there's parking areas I've gone to in other parts of the state. And you know, it's usually all good. You know, it's like 10, $15 tops. I'm like, 20, $25. Like, okay, fine. There you go. The thing pops up, you get your ticket back and you're out. So yeah, that was a wonderful day for justice. Kelsey got to move on with her life. No. We don't. He rode shot. He's like John McClane. John McClane always rides shotgun when he's not driving, like the beginning of Die Hard. So yeah, it would have been funny if we had him in the back as like a special driving the president. I haven't talked to Kelsey in a while. Me and her don't talk much, but she'll text me every now and then during a fundraiser. That's usually about it. So I don't reach out to, them, like sending with the Reed family, sending with Kelsey's family. I don't reach out typically ever. I don't like to pester them. I don't want to be like, I just don't want to pester these people. It's just, I want to let them move on with their lives. If they want to reach out to me and say hello, they always can do so. It's cool. It's always fine, but like, I don't really pester anybody too much. I might just reach out and say, hey, a fundraiser's coming up. We're doing a fundraiser this week for you, just to let you know. We'll probably work on another fundraiser for her soon too. We got to figure something out. So we'll figure something out. That's about it for today. I wanted to do a cop-based show today. I'm like McNamara, Patrick Noonan. I'll talk about, it's Karen from Florida. Oh, Karen from Florida. Okay, nice. Cool. Okay, yep, she was a very wonderful person. So yeah, we'll figure out something in the coming weeks about what we're gonna do. Next weekend will be Adam Deitch focused for sure. I'll do one show probably next weekend. I think I'm only gonna do one show this weekend. I don't expect to be back this weekend. I got some stuff tonight going on, and then I got a busy day tomorrow. So I got plenty. It's a nice show to open up the month here. And then what else do I have coming up? I'm gonna do the Stoughton Select Board and the next North Andover Select Board coming up. Audrey said she may not be there, but we'll see. She ends up going, but yeah, that's all right. Yeah, that's all right. I remember I invited you out, but you had to move on. No problem at all. You can do what you got to do. But everybody, you got to get you an invite. You know what I mean? I just invited who I could. Like, I'm just like, oh, do you guys want to come? A lot of people are scattering by that point. I'm like, do you want to go to Kowloon's? Whatnot. But Boozy Beauty is going to go live now. I don't know if I have the ability to do that. I don't think I can do that once the show is done, but I don't think I can do. I think once the show's been set up, I can't do that. Kelsey's doing great. Good to hear. Hope she's doing awesome. She's getting to see her son, which is great. Like I said, my attitude is these people need to get to where they're going in life. And if we can help them out in that process, then we've done our job. It's like Tom Hanks said in Saving Private Ryan, if getting Private Ryan back home to his mother is the one thing that we do in this entire war, then I guess we've done our job. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I look at this too. So, all right, in a few minutes, I'm going to blast some music. And after the show's over, I'm going to blast some afternoon music for a couple minutes, at least 2 to 3 songs. And then after that, I'm going to move on with my day and get to where I need to get going. and driving Mr. Betterow. Except we need a meme online with me as like the chauffeur and Betterow in the back. It's like driving Mr. Betterow. Driving Mr. Betterow to Kowloon's. Exactly. So, yeah, I know they're closing Kowloon's. Huh? I was watching Phantom Gourmet this morning, and they had the Kowloon Tiki thing on the show this morning. I watched a lot of Phantom Gourmet this morning, so about an hour of it I watched. So they had the Kowloon's Tiki there. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We talked about McNamara. We'll continue to follow that story. And then Noonan's story for now. I mean, Noonan will probably never talk about again unless he goes back to active duty and something happens while he's on duty. If he ever pulls out a gun and shoots somebody in a situation, you know, this guy's unfit for duty, and it only further validates Kelsey Fitzsimmons. So we'll be seeing what he does on the job. Maybe he might be better for the rubber gun squad, where he sits in the office all day and just does paperwork. We'll see. But guys, thanks for tuning in today. It was a great show. We'll continue to follow McNamara's story in Stoughton. And then we'll continue to follow some Turtleboy news and Karen Reed news as it comes about. And we should be good to go. Yeah, they do. You're right about that. I kind of mock the show a lot too. It's like, you go to this restaurant, you get this and that. They make this and that. But we have two different comments here. Phantom Gourmet is trash, and someone else says, Phantom Gourmet I love. So great. Well, guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. From Mazda Media, I'm Mark. Justice for all. Take care, guys.